We're back on the Four Horsemen to discuss the moving of the Esports World Cup. You thought we couldn't talk about the Esports World Cup in Saudi Arabia anymore, but of course we can. It's our annual episode. It is the hot topic, no guests. Plus, we want to catch up with Richard again. Shout out, by the way,
no guest, of course.
Shout out to all of the people when Thorin and I did a 2-man for Horsemen who said, obviously it was like summoning insight. But my favorite comment was that next episode, it'll just be a
we're
centaur.
dropping like flies, dude.
The one-man show will just be called the Centaur. So I appreciate it.
Yeah, not bad. It'll just be Thorin. Thorin is the one-man show anyway.
By the way, what I also appreciate is that the industry is just so ridiculous that, like, we can't even pretend that it's like, oh, we just chose to have a 3-man episode. Essentially, what it implies is no one in the industry, no one in our whole industry can talk about this topic. Like, but again,
it's true.
Nothing weird about that. Nothing conspicuous about the idea. We can't possibly get a fourth guest for this particular topic. It's weird, isn't it? You know,
I mean, the problem is that everybody, if you're on a team or like, the problem is even if you want to get a job, you can't, because with the downsizing of the industry, with esports winter, with the popping of the esports bubble, who do you work for? If you understand the business side, you can't work for the teams because they won't touch you with a 10-foot pole after saying stuff. You can't work for ESL. Obviously, so who exactly you work for?
I won't say who. It's not even someone super famous. It's not like I'm like hiding somebody's. Put it this way: there's a person who worked in the esports industry who was quite a prominent, like, forward-facing feminist character who'd spoken about gay rights and women's rights and the way people are treated and people who they thought had a sexist tone in the West. That person, all I can tell you, seamlessly went to working for like EWC, and their all their social media was like, "Do you like this newer beer I've got, guys?" Which is like the dress thing they all wear for, like, head to toe. Like, what do you think? This kind of a bit cute, this one, isn't it? Like, I'm going out for dinner later. It's like the way it seamlessly transitioned. That is like, what a fucking.
You literally described about 20 people.
I did. That's also the beauty is I didn't make it conspicuous. There's like as most of the people who do it. Yeah,
so
we did the seamlessly
guys
transition. Like, what do you mean? We were always involved with these days. I love EWC myself. I love it.
So I love the news guys, and if you are somebody like us who isn't really a fan of Saudi Arabia sports washing exercises in esports, the news is fantastic. Which is this: the EWC, the Esports World Cup, is not going to be held in Riyadh. It is instead going to be held in Paris. Why is this good news, you might ask? Well, you see, the Saudi government really cares about people going to Riyadh for this and to create the sports washing. And you know what? All they're going to do is spend tens of millions of dollars, maybe $100 million, maybe more, actually probably more, including those prize pools, right? Hundreds of millions of dollars on an event that will now feature France. So it defeats all of their sports washing exercises effectively because nobody's going to see everything that they want to show off. We're not going to see players with the fancy hotel tours in Riyadh trying to draw tourists. You're not going to be able to normalize Saudi Arabia. You're just going to see the Eiffel Tower instead. So you know what? I support.
You will see Macron shaking hands with MBS.
Jesus. Okay.
By the way, not even joking. He's done this multiple times. Macron. I mean, Macron is like one of the worst European leaders right now. He's an absolute scumbag.
He is a simp.
I mean, listen,
shameless, isn't he?
I mean, yeah, like there's a level of shamelessness. Like, I mean, look, I tweeted out about this already. No doubt we'll get to it when we get to Macron's involvement in this whole debacle. But he basically like turned around and was like, "Oh, it's an honor and a privilege to have the Esports World Cup in Paris. You know, after talks with Saudi Arabia, you know, blah blah blah." And it's like 3 years ago, you literally blamed national riots against your corrupt police force on Grand Theft Auto.
Yep.
Right, so
which is even such a dated reference. That's like that almost is like the original '90s shit road. Grand Theft Auto. You may as well blame Doom next, you retard. What are you doing? Grand Theft Auto, not even some like new game or something.
Yeah,
by the way, it's even famous among gamers. Grand Theft Auto hasn't had a sequel in years. You're referencing Grand Theft Auto. That's like a Thorin by the numbers reference. You idiot. What are you doing? You're supposed to be down with the kids. I'm old.
By the way, it's gonna be really tragic when GTA 6 comes out in November and all of France riots. It's gonna be really sad.
I mean, it definitely was nothing to do with police shooting an unarmed second-generation migrant and then lying about what had happened. I mean, it was nothing to do with that, and everything to do with the kids playing that Grand Theft Auto. What are they on now? 3. Bloody hell. It's just a joke. Just a joke. So I've got material. I've got material for Macron. Don't worry when we get to that fucking piece of shit. But but yeah, the whole thing's been an absolute farce from start to finish. And I'll also tell you a few stories, because by the time this comes out, I should have published the story I'm working on. It's nothing major or groundbreaking. I'm not that kind of guy anymore. I'm a glorified gossip columnist, I suppose, these days. But still, when it comes to matters of the Esports World Cup, I'll always make sure that the truth is out there and hold their feet to the flames. And the is this. It absolutely was not planned. It was not part of the plan. If you were below a certain pay threshold, you were being consistently told right up until the penultimate day of this announcement, fuck you, you're going to Riyadh. If you don't like it, fuck you, you're out. Simple as that. This applies to freelance talent. This applies to boots on the ground admins, to like people, all the support staff. That was the party line across the board if you weren't like a team owner or ESL or part of the Saudi Arabian Esports Federation. So lots to talk about.
Yeah. And by the way, guys, obviously the reason that this was moved was because of the war that is going on in Iran right now. And for those people...
There's a war?
What? Yeah,
there's a war. That's crazy, because it was described in the EWC press release as... in light of the current regional situation. Wow, what regional situation?
That sounds like, there's a circus coming or something. What are you on about, regional situation? I love it. I love it.
Oh, the weather's hot.
That's like what we used to do in the British Empire, where if there'd be like an uprising, we wouldn't ever call it like a revolt. We would call it like, like the Dubai situation or the Dubai happening.
Yes.
You'd make some like cute way to say it like that,
And by the way, just to catch people up on the actual geopolitical reasons that this is happening, you obviously know about the Iran war, but what you might not know is that countries who are U.S. allies in the region, Qatar, United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, are also getting hit by missiles and drones. And sometimes, especially in the UAE, they've actually been civilian areas.
Yeah, literally.
And, basically it's impossible to know what the U.S. is going to do, even though as of today...
I'll say.
It sure is. And for all you guys who are like, I can't believe about America. It's like, why do you like America but not Saudi Arabia? America's not sponsoring esports tournaments. That's why. Okay.
Yeah.
We are on record for years saying, hey, maybe U.S. military shouldn't be sponsoring esports teams. Okay.
Correct.
So it's not like we agree, but it isn't being used for sports washing. Right. And certainly if the
even
US
do you
was
one
getting...
better. Not that you should need to agree with us politically to come on board for the show. But I'll do you one better. I think this whole situation in Iran is retarded, up there with perhaps the most retarded thing Trump has ever done. This is an absolute waste of everybody's fucking time. Like, don't get me wrong, vaporizing the Ayatollah was kind of based, but beyond that, this has just been a total fucking mess. And I don't even understand, you want regime change the regime. If you don't want regime change, then
they did the worst of both worlds.
Then don't do this. So it's like.
Plus, also, by the way, don't worry. We have done all the fucking pointing out all the hypocrisy. The point is that isn't the topic we're doing right now.
No.
And you, as a person doing what aboutism, don't want us to talk about the topic we're going to talk about now. So you want to bring up something we're not going to talk about. Because, by the way, I've done the exact same point. I think it's a very valid point. Bit of free food for thought for you here, right? I was told, in light of what Russia did as a sovereign country against another sovereign country without any sort of UN mandate, that meant we had to do things like take Russian flags off of esports players. So as I'll pose the question for the millionth time, I've never had an answer to it ever. What could the United States of America do as a country in the world that would ever get you, a person at home, to say in esports, every American has to take their flag off? As far as I can tell, there is no answer to the question, because to answer it would just dissolve your whole worldview. Isn't it? Am I wrong? Seems like I'm right on that one.
I agree, Duncan. Perhaps the worst part of the world and society where American exceptionalism gets to thrive is esports, for sure. Yeah.
And bizarrely, who knows why? Because the same people who sell that shit. And what about China? What about you? It's like, okay, then what about it? I thought you were just going to do something instead of talking about Saudi Arabia. Cool. Yeah, I've got you on that one, haven't I? I called you bluff, didn't I, lad?
That's very funny. So basically, guys, because of the ongoing regional situation, as we euphemistically might refer to it, you don't know
No, you
whether
won't
or
believe
not.
this. I was there in Dubai, and the regional situation flew in the window and killed me. Fucking hell, these regional situations, they're really tricky nowadays, aren't they? I know.
So, basically, like, you never know what's going to happen and whether, certain parts of Saudi Arabia will be attacked. Some people say, well, they're not going to attack Saudi Arabia because it has Mecca and the Hajj is going on, which is the Islamic pilgrimage. Who knows what they're going to do? Because, spoiler, guys, I don't know if you are aware of this, but
is that a real thing someone actually said? Like, but you have to understand this. They're very religious people. They never attack where all the religious pilgrims are. The ultimate thing that'd be the powder keg to sort of blow up. In case you were like a revolution, you'd never do something like that. Like, actually, that sounds like exactly what someone would try and do. That would be like top of the list.
Especially
if Tom Clancy was writing a novel, that'd be top of the whiteboard, wouldn't it? Like, come on.
Especially in a desperate situation, right? And by the way, it's not like, you might be ignorant about this, but let's just say the interpretations of Islam that are popular in Iran are not so popular in other parts of
sadly, Monty, to this
world.
day, this just shows how to all of us, let's be real, unless you were in the military, those wars in the Middle East were just something on TV, basically. They were just a really long season of TV. And the reason why I always say this is, how the fuck did the West have that many like terrorism wars against these countries? And people to this day don't even know what the difference between like Sunni and Shia is.
Yeah,
and if you don't know that, it's everything. That's why people still say all that stuff. Why doesn't this country help this other one out? Like, they're literally, they're like Protestant Catholic, you lunatic. They're in like a fucking war of their own. They don't even like each other.
And
real thing.
I'll say this as well, like the brave new world that we're actually in, and this is again, perhaps a Trumpian worldview. I know this is one he sees, but ultimately it's like for the first time, sort of like the Arab, brotherhood is like they're explicitly against Iran. Like Saudi Arabia is obviously, they're embroiled in a war with them now. Qatar, people like this. I mean, it wasn't that long ago that Qatar were essentially brokering a deal for Iran to get some of the money unfrozen that the US government had frozen for them on the proviso it wasn't going to be spent on funding Hezbollah and all the other fucking
Saudi Arabia is also
Islamic
currently embroiled in a proxy war with Iranian-backed Yemeni rebels. And part of the human rights violations of Saudi Arabia are gunning down people at the Yemeni border because of this conflict. So, guys, this is all to say that these people don't like each other.
It's a mess.
It's a mess. And, the thing about it is, like, I don't think, for what it's worth, that the Iranians in a heightened conflict, if the missiles start flying again, that they're going to target, the Esports World Cup. Like, I think that's not right. Like, I don't think that's going to happen. But the thing is if let's pretend Esports World Cup goes on, what they might target is every airstrip in the country, so nobody can get in or out with planes.
You live here now.
So and imagine the kind of rescue operation that would take with players from dozens of countries around the world, with each independent government trying to get, because it's not the U.S. that's going to get the Indian players out. They don't give a fuck. Like, the U.S. is going to come in and get the U.S. players out, but who knows what's going to happen to the guy from Croatia, right?
Yeah. Plus, there's another element as well people don't seem to be aware of, which is this is always what one of my number one problems with places like Dubai and Riyadh were, which is it's this like whole Potemkin village thing you do where you pretend you've created a utopia, but somehow your utopia doesn't get affected by the environment of the country you're in. Because obviously, if you ever go to Dubai, I've heard it's amazing. It's like some fucking, oh my God, there's no crime. It just looks so Western. Yeah, but you are still in the fucking desert, bro. So here's the thing I heard that people don't realize about that region. When that Strait of Hormuz and all that shut down, bro, I remember someone said in an article that some of these countries, bro, ship the water in and stuff like that, to the main cities. Essentially, if you ever fuck the supply chains, it doesn't take many days before you will be in really bad circumstances.
So, and the way the U.S. has been threatening to destroy power and desalination facilities, and there is no way to know that Iran wouldn't do that in kind.
Why not? Yeah, of course, yeah.
Those
are military targets.
I don't think that's a likely outcome. But the whole point is you can't fly thousands of people into Riyadh under the current conditions. That's not. And by the way, I hope that the teams, I don't know if they did, but I hope the teams pressured them to do this, because I can't imagine anything more wildly irresponsible from the teams and the publishers to say, yes, this is okay. You can
I'll give you
use
an example,
our game
Monty.
IP and our teams for this.
I've got a real world example of something like this happening, but you'll notice how different the response was because the stakes weren't the same in terms of money and promises and deals. So one of the reasons, it's actually the reason I actually first ever went to the country Belarus, which if people don't know, their political situation, let's just say, is quite fraught. Like they claim to have elections, but let's say maybe it's one of those ones where the same guy wins for 40 years or something. So basically, when the reason there was an event in this country, which by the way, at the time, Monty, you all had to get a visa to even attend. Like you couldn't get there on like Western and British passports. The reason there was an event there is because when they had that original like uprising of the Orange Revolution or whatever it was in Ukraine in 2014, around that time, I think the event itself was in like 2016, there was still like concerns at the time, even though now this is obviously come to fruition. There was concerns there'll be a war between Russia and Ukraine.
Yep.
And so because at the time there was fighting in that like Donbass eastern region, the events of Starladder were always held in Kiev, the capital of Ukraine. And even though that's in the West, the fear actually was from the teams that were going to attend this event, so pretty much all Western teams except like one Navi or something like that, you know, all these Western teams were basically like, we don't want to attend the event if it's in Ukraine. Like, isn't there this
reasonable
concerns that there might be a war or something? And at the time, by the way, like nothing did indeed happen for something like 8 years or something, mate. It was a long time before it ever did happen. But put it this way, when there was no stakes and big business contracts, Western teams just said, we're not doing it. So they had to move the whole, essentially, Stalin, who himself a Ukrainian, had to move the event to another country, which I'm sure didn't help them, didn't help any of their margins, all the deals they have. So the point is, like you're saying, Monty, this wouldn't even be a consideration normally, except you just know how much money is riding on this bloody event. Like, it means that the teams on some level know they need the Saudi money for EWC. EWC know the event has to go ahead. They put so much into it. So the real problem here is, like you're implying, like, this isn't even something that, like, remember, it's a video game, bro. It's not even like it can't be held elsewhere. But this is what gives away that the whole thing is about everyone must go to Riyadh. It wouldn't be a big deal otherwise. It was just, if it really was the World Cup, you'd hold it anywhere, wouldn't you? Go, no problem, we get you next time, Riyadh. But this just shows that the entire project was everyone must be in Riyadh. That's clearly what the number one goal was.
Back to our old friends, Team Liquid, who condemned the state of Texas for having a dangerous environment for trans people. And so they didn't like sending their teams there. And yet there is no statement from Team Liquid about sending players into potentially what could be an active war zone. And like, you know, sure, you could say, well, it's not going to happen there, Monty, and they resolved it. But like, no one's putting public pressure on this ridiculous situation. Give me a fucking break.
I mean, let's also just say if Team Liquid feel that way about Texas, they must feel that way about France. Because Macron has explicitly described going and changing your sex by deed poll as completely crazy. His words, not mine. So, yeah, I don't know. That sounds like a bit of an erosion of trans rights there, right? So maybe you might want to boycott this one now that it's in Paris and not a progressive utopia like Riyadh.
It's so completely exposed, this industry. It's absolutely wild.
I mean, they've all shut the fuck up. They're just look, it's nearly June again. When like, do you think Pride Month is happening this month? Do you think it's happening this year? Sorry. It will be. We just don't do that anymore, mate. That's just a thing of the past. So
the real shame we have is attempting to seriously address these topics. What this era is rife for is just some sort of like satirical news, esports news show. Like that would fucking kill right now. It's got all the material right there. True, it's impossible to parody.
It's fairly redundant.
I know.
Just go on Twitter.
The problem.
Just go on Twitter for an hour and it's all there. You know?
And also, don't you think one thing that is incredibly conspicuous in this whole topic is, notice, Monty, this is obviously something that was an ongoing changing dilemma, like what would happen when the event was there, when people heard about, people getting bombed in Dubai, people thought, can this event actually take place? All these industry people, the kind of people who about 5-6 years ago could never fucking stop finding that send tweet button for me and Richard about every single thing we ever said or did. Bizarrely, I haven't seen any opinions by any of them. No one's spoken up. No one's going, I'm not sure if I would want to go there. Is this safe? None of those questions questions. By the way, I even remember back in the day, this is a really dated story, but just to give you an example of what the esports industry is actually like. Do you remember back in the day, Richard, when one of those early like 1.6 events in like Germany, there was one time where like an American player got like beaten up. I believe it was actually something stupid, like at 2 a.m, trying to buy weed off someone on the street, insane like that, And but because it was presented as he was just an American walking down the street and they beat him up in Germany. I remember like all industry people like Scoots were tweeting like, "Hey, keep our players safe. What's going on over there? Like, hey, let's get some news." Like, mate, now again, all just conspicuously silent. Nobody, there's no opinion. I haven't seen any opinions from people about this topic.
Yeah.
Not even of like, should we even have the event there? It's good. It's in fact until it was announced officially in Paris. Everyone's just been radio silent.
I can give you another example. I mean, like when again, alluding to the time period when you were talking about your Belarus event, I was working in StarCraft, and DreamHack had an event in Moscow scheduled, which again, really shows you that how times
you were going to work it, right?
Well, I mean, we ended up working it, but we did it from the studio in Sweden.
Oh,
I mean,
right.
we're all presented with a choice. Do you want to go to Moscow right now? Even though, again, the chance of something happening was
back then everyone used to say it would never happen. But by the way, without going into any details, actually, I was in Russia like 2 weeks before the war broke out, and on TV in Russia, I saw a news program that was like, "People are saying there's going to be a war. There'll never be a war. This is just moving troops around." And even I was just like 2 weeks like, "What?" Like, no, the whole thing. Like everyone said nothing would happen back then. Supposedly we were supposed to believe it was just some saber rattling or some shit, wasn't it?
Exactly. I mean, like and obviously that's kind of when the conflict really began. And all of this stuff that's happened.
Absolutely.
Subsequently is terrible. But we were given the option then. Do you want to go to Moscow? And I just said, look, man, it's a long fucking flight anyhow. And if there's any risk of anything bad happening, I'd rather just do it remotely from a studio. Or most of the talent agreed. Like, say, the irony being, I think the only person that went from the broadcast talent was Smix, and she was just out there by herself.
Listen,
I know she's a fucking real one for that.
She was on the boots on the ground in Vietnam.
Yeah, she was a real one for that, and obviously everything was fine, and blah blah. But again, that just shows how different things are. We were allowed to articulate our concerns.
For sure.
In fact, we were presented with an alternative by the tournament organizer, DreamHack, who said, look, we get it. If you don't want to go, we can do it in the studio. What do you want to do?
What you're obviously highlighting is it would be absurd to imagine they did that with this event, right, Richard? Like, hey, guys, working here. Would you like to cut? Would you feel safe? Like, that wasn't even, I don't imagine that ever even happened from their side.
As you guys know, the NBA playoffs are going right now. And there's no better way to cash in on the high-flying hoops action than with Prize Picks, a preferred partner of the NBA. Every bucket, every dime, and every win means more when you're playing on Prize Picks. So don't pass up your next shot with Prize Picks and get $50 instantly in lineups when you play your first $5. Not only that, but they're having an NBA Finals sweepstakes. So if you pick live squares during the NBA playoffs, you could win a trip for two to the NBA Finals. To enter, you just make a $5 lineup with at least one live NBA player pick during any part of the 2026 NBA playoffs. Live player picks are picks that are made after a game is already in progress. They also have NHL playoffs. They've got UFC. And of course, if you're watching this, you're probably an esports fan. Well, guess what's right around the corner? That would be the Counter-Strike Cologne Major. And you can play on Prize Picks with that as well. They support Prize Picks. They support Counter-Strike, League of Legends on Prize Picks. They have Call of Duty now. And they're available in all 50 states, including California, Texas, Florida, and Georgia. The way you play, all you have to do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections in esports like Counter-Strike or League of Legends. That could be more or less kills in a certain map. In traditional sports like the NBA, could be more or less points. And if you get your picks right, you could cash in. You can also mix and match. So you could, for example, pick an NBA player and then an NHL player and then a Counter-Strike player and then a League of Legends player for your picks. So there's a lot of flexibility. And they offer early payouts. So they have now, if your player gets off to a hot start, you have the option to cash out those winnings before the game even finishes. So lots of flexibility and a fun way to play along with your favorite sports and esports. You guys can download the Prize Picks app today and use code Horsemen, that's plural, HORSEMEN, to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code Horsemen to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, a preferred partner of the NBA.
It's a good point to segue into what we've been told compared to what is real.
Right.
Now, the sad reality with the Esports World Cup is that it is all just bullshit and propaganda. Ralph Reichert just is content to lie for the Saudi Arabian state now. And it's kind of like, I get it. It comes with the territory. Like, obviously.
Thing is, I think he's actually full George Costanza from Seinfeld. Like, it's not a lie if you believe it.
Yeah,
like,
maybe.
I think he's gone fully down that
maybe.
route, bro. Like, he just believes this shit now,
But, ultimately, we've had this problem where it's like, Ralph Reichert is the CEO of the Esports World Cup Foundation. He is therefore the person putting out all of these statements. He's in close consultation with the Saudi Arabian state, and therefore all of these quotes where I know for a fact these things are not true. But he's got to say them because he is the English speaking, mouth of Sauron, to use that analogy for the 500th time on a podcast. So,
that would be on the bingo card for this show.
Oh, sure. Get that one off, right?
We'll mouth of Sauron this week.
We'll work Travis and Riot in. It's all coming.
Exactly,
Don't worry. We'll make it an all-timer for you. Bingo cards on the ready and eyes down. But anyway, Ralph Reichert
mouths of Sauron.
Indeed. Well, we should do that. We should have an episode, all-time greatest mouth of Sauron, and we should go through and list all the people we've got.
Sadly, if the esports industry was as cool as it thinks, like, at least politicians have the balls to go on shows. We'd just have a show called Mouth of Sauron, and each week there'd be a new guest of an industry shill and just come on and go, no, they're actually really cool.
And we don't ask them any hard-hitting questions whatsoever. So I'm a representative of Gondor, and right, anyway, so Riyadh helped turn the Esports World Cup into a global phenomenon, said Ralph Reichert, CEO of the Esports Foundation.
What does that statement even mean? But whatever, we'll let that go. Keep going.
Riyadh is the home of EWC and one of the world's leading hubs for esports, powered by an incredible community of fans and long-term ambition for the future of the sport. I mean, we've seen the incredible community
of fans.
The
fan
fan
part's obviously insane in
all 40
you fly the
of
fans
them.
in, you lunatic. I know.
Right.
Like,
this year,
the one thing they don't have is fans.
This year, we're excited to bring EWC to Paris for its first edition outside of Saudi Arabia. Paris has hosted some of the world's biggest sporting events and is one of the great global capitals of sport, culture, and entertainment. Together with the passion of French fans and the strong support we've received locally, we're excited to bring the global esports community there for the next chapter of EWC. Paris now becomes the first international chapter in EWC history.
I like the way, even though the original ESWC was in France, that never existed, Monty. We were always at war with East Asia.
Yeah.
The EWC is a new thing. You can't even say we're going back to Paris. Like, you could even spin it like that, couldn't you? But they're so dumb they have to pretend that there never was anything before. It only began now.
They bought the name Esports World Cup.
It would be the easiest pivot of all time, wouldn't it? Exactly. It'd be the easiest pivot of all time, bro.
So anyway, they also say in that press release without that quote is in, that after the extended evaluation process, in light of the current regional situation, the Esports Foundation decided to accelerate that international rotation for the 2026 edition. And this is also underlined in reporting in the BBC, where it's someone called Mike McCabe, who is an EWC chief organizer. Fuck knows what that title actually means. And he said, where was it? This was always part of the plan. There's just been a change of sequence. Right?
Even that phrasing is so like Orwellian, isn't it?
So, what you now are supposed to believe is that the Saudi Arabian state came in, bought ESL, bought Faceit, merged them, created the Saudi Games Group to be a parent company for not just that, but all of the other mobile concerns they have. That they also simultaneously bought the ESWC, the Esports World Cup that used to be held in Paris, bought that brand, shuttered it just so the new brand, EWC, would not be confused with the old brand, that they then started channeling all these resources into Riyadh for the Esports World Cup, held an edition there 2 years in a row, and then it was always part of the plan to move to Paris.
Not to mention that they told the partner teams that they are funding that they had to open offices and permanent locations in Riyadh, practice facilities for players. and that they had to employ.
And they're still
Saudi
working on that
nationals.
KeSPA project.
Yeah,
It's obviously
Yes,
the whole thing's going in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, the KeSPA project, which they're building infrastructure of. And here's the thing, guys. I think that they said that initially, and they did say it initially that they had plans to take it abroad. But here's the thing. They said that so it wouldn't look like sports washing when they did it in Riyadh for a billion years. Because, we're just getting it started here, and then we're going to take it internationally. And I think they were hedging their bets because what they want is to be the governing body like FIFA that says, hey, Paris, if you pay us $100 million and you have a bidding war over the Esports World Cup, if that happens, then so be it. We make money, right? We'll fund it for now. But if it doesn't happen, it's still worth it because it pays for our sports washing. So I think it was really just a hedge. I think it was a hedge. It was an intelligent thing to say because then people couldn't accuse them of more than we already do of sports washing, right? Because they say, oh, no. We're doing this as a service so that then eventually it'll go around the world. So it can't be sports washing because it's going to go other places, right?
Yeah.
But they didn't mean that. And it's obvious from the demands they've made and the infrastructure that they've built.
Stories I'll publish, probably out before people see this episode. But basically, I was told by multiple freelance talent that were negotiating rates, etc., across multiple games, that the party line was you're going to Riyadh because I heard
exactly the same thing.
They voiced concerns, obviously. I mean, by the way, some people, right, like they might not give a fuck. Like you might be 20 something, no wife, no kids, just living the esports dream. You might not give a fuck about flying into a potential war zone just to do a fucking esports event. Back when I was younger, I've been to some gnarly places. Like I didn't give a fuck. Now that I'm old, fat, and comfortable, that it's less enticing. Put it that way. Also, if you got kids, it might be less enticing. Yep. Yes, the bag is nice, but being dead and leaving your kids orphaned, less nice. So obviously, some people were negotiating and saying, look, we'd rather not go to Riyadh, but if I do want to go to Riyadh, can you bump the money up and have some danger pay in there or whatever? Absolutely not. In fact, that was considered grotesquely offensive that people would ask for more money.
I love it.
Yeah, right? I mean, there was.
Hey, this event you're asking me to attend that I might die if I attend. Yeah. Can I have more money? That's fucking offensive to me. You'd ask me to do that.
How dare you? Yeah, how dare you?
You're asking me to maybe die over video games. Yep. By the way, do you notice also how this sort of news, we all live in the esports space. We get embedded in it. We get embroiled in the data. Notice how when a news happens like this in the world, it's like a bucket of cold water in your face. Like, wait a minute, why would I risk dying over video games? I know. It quickly makes you realize what the industry actually is, isn't it? Like, why would I risk that?
And this is why I think a lot of the reason why they didn't want to issue hazard pay is obviously like that gets the reputation in the industry that it's not safe. And then people tell each other, hey, I got more money because it was hazard pay because Riyadh is dangerous, which is the exact opposite of the sports washing effect that they had to do in the first place.
I would never go as far, this would be far from my remit, to ever suggest the BBC were complicit in any way. But if you read the BBC's report about this, at no point do they ever actually mention like there's a war, basically. They just use all the euphemisms, there's tensions, this regional situation. Like that almost looks like they're setting up the thing for this guy to say it too, because they could have had their own paragraph, like due to the ongoing war due to missiles. They don't put any of that. You'd never know there was actually anyone dying in this story, bro. It just looks like things are getting a bit.
Yeah, of course.
The temperature around here is getting a bit hot. But it's just that shit, it.
Let me explain the game with the rates. Because this was basically, I think the reason why they were full offended, Richard, is because the rates were already too high for talent. Why were the rates too high for talent?
That's fair.
Because it was sports washing and people didn't want to go to Riyadh to engage in what they knew was sports washing.
When you say it like that, Monty, it makes more sense why they're offended. They're basically like, look, we're already paying you a giant back just to come for sports washing. And now you want more. I've already broke the back. I mean, wait a minute. No, it's a totally legitimate fee.
But,
of course.
But they were already.
I love it.
They were already massively
overpaid.
You're
getting 150K. I'm giving you 100K a day. I love it. I love how ridiculous this industry is.
Yeah. So basically, the people already know what the price was their dignity and their morals, which is why everybody deleted.
And also, shout out to the industry that the real divide wasn't "I'm not going, I'll die." It's like, can I at least get a higher day rate if I'm going to die like that?
Listen, I respect that. I fucking like.
I know in a way that's gangster. I know what you mean. And by the way, low key, if I was working events, I'd probably just ask for the more money as well.
Correct.
Richard, it said double my day rate though. Shit, is it that bad?
Specifically Luckily for you, Duncan, 100% correct.
Yeah. I reckon I could dodge a drone. 2K a day. Why not?
By the way, imagine selling that as an extra feature, as like part of an interactive thing for the audience. Want a drone, Thorin? Like, fucking, yeah, get me in there. Like, I'm fucking
just a little fly-by-wire mini game on Twitch.
Exactly.
So basically, they were already overpaying people, and people were getting overpaid because they were having to delete all their tweets that they ever made about Saudi Arabia. We know people did this. And so the negotiations of, hey, can I have even more money was, I assume that's why it was outrageous to them, because here's the plan. We know that ESL is getting brutally whipped by Savvy Games and the Sovereign Wealth Fund to be profitable, to make money.
Literally.
Yeah, literally. Maybe that's why Ralph Reichert keeps saying all this stuff.
And I had genuine sympathy for him then, if he was just some like sort of Reek-like character. There's another one for the bingo card.
Okay.
But
yeah.
So basically what they want, and what the intention always was to pay people a lot of money to get them to delete tweets, to not say other stuff, to say nice stuff, to normalize it to sports wash in year one. Then obviously the plan was, once it's normalized, it's not like ESL doesn't know what a normal day rate for a caster or a production person is. Yeah. So they were going to drop it, as time went on until it matched, or maybe, maybe slightly exceeded an event in Germany for ESL, so that it's like, oh, I like this event because they pay me just a little bit more than everybody else, right? But when I say that people were making, like, talent rates were astronomical for this event, people were getting paid
initially
$20,000 a week, which, by the way, is an outrageous sum compared to the market for esports talent and production rates. People who were there for the entire World Cup, like, were getting paid six figures. Streamers, as we know, were getting paid six figures a day for co-streaming. A day, the big ones. So, they are clearly, they want the money was up front to normalize it, but then next year they come back, and year after year they're like, what's the problem? Why do you need so much money? That's not a market value. Why would we pay you that? And the reason was because of sports washing. But once it's normalized, once they win the PR game and you've already broken down and done it, you're gonna be like, well, I guess it's 20% less, but it's still more than everybody else. And it's normal now. So I already deleted those tweets. So why not just take the money? Why not go again? And so what they're pissed about is that they had to potentially pay even more than their ludicrous sum they were paying people. And then also it defeats their plans of being profitable and for, lowering rates over time. This is the reason why everybody was being told up until the last second it was going to be in Riyadh. It was because leadership of the EWC was pushing for it to be in Riyadh, because they were receiving pressure from the Saudi government to have it in Riyadh, because there's no point in running this thing if France is the country that gets hundreds of millions of dollars spent in it.
I've got the quote, and this is on. So just to let you know how quickly this thing has turned around. This is from April 30th, and this was in Time magazine, because obviously all of these fucking publications now are just captured, and they just write positive things about.
Like I say, the BBC one, you'd think they were just doing the PR for them, mate. There's no putting the feet to the fire at all. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Also in that BBC article that I quoted earlier, they make it abundantly clear this isn't happening due to pressure from anyone.
Yeah.
It's the fans haven't pressured us, the talent haven't pressured us, staff haven't pressured us. Oh, what a wonderful thing to say. Good. It's good to know that the people that actually make the event have zero influence over the event, which also kind of gives the game away. But
also, you're telling me that nobody said, hey, I might die in this potential war? I mean, it doesn't even make sense. Like, of course people would be worried about that. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So here's the maddest one. There's even a thing where in the BBC article, what's clever is that it's only ever positive spin. So here's what's clever. They managed to simultaneously pat themselves on the back for the fact this is better for gay people, while not mentioning, but what's the implication about what the event was before? Because they actually have a piece in the BBC one where it has a woman called Emma who plays what even game is this? Apparently she's transgender. I don't know what game she plays, actually. I can't see. It just says Esports Pro. But she even then says that it's actually better for LGBTQ people, which is like, what's the implication there? But that's never meant addressed. It's just everything's just positive as usual. It's all positive. It's all good.
It's better now. Well, what was the problem before? Nothing. Just saying.
Yeah.
Just saying.
No, again, they even phrase it like, I don't think there's going to be any barriers for the community. But it's like, well, what's the implication? Or why was there a problem before? Surely that was the case in Riyadh. Again, as usual, though, everything's just good in it.
So here's what Ralph Reichart said in Time magazine. I'll just read you the full paragraph. It says, at least that, on July 6th, some 2,000 of the world's top gamers will descend on the Saudi capital, Riyadh, for the third annual Esports World Cup, where they will lock horns at 24 different video games in pursuit of $75 million in prize money. Life-changing money, I believe you're contractually obligated to describe it as. At least that is still the hope of tournament organizer Ralph Reichart, who's determined to forge ahead with the event despite the turmoil wrought by the Iran war, which has already forced a slew of high-profile postponements and cancellations across the kingdom. Of course, obviously, Formula One, etc., had already been cancelled by
all of the Middle East races, including the one in Saudi Arabia, were cancelled by F1.
Yep.
And by the way, when people say about EWC is hard to move, imagine moving Formula One, bro. That's probably like insane loss of money. I can't even imagine it.
Yep. And so it goes, it's definitely made our lives harder, said Reichart, CEO of the Esports World Cup Foundation. People obviously are more hesitant to book their travel, though we've seen ticket sales pick up since the ceasefire. What about sentence? Like, what are we even doing here? Ticket sales have picked up since the ceasefire. It's like, what the fuck? Like, oh yeah, fucking IEM Mogadishu's going to be great after Black Hawk Down. Like, what the fuck are we saying?
It's too surreal, isn't it? Esports is
what
too surreal.
What are we saying out loud? Like, just listen to the words. And like maybe say to journalists,
there's a ceasefire because actually ticket sales are going to really spike right now.
Don't use that. Don't use that one. Don't use that one.
What are you saying? And also, it's not the end of the war. It's a ceasefire.
No, exactly. Just a ceasefire.
That might actually be the single wildest sentence in esports history, right?
Ticket sales have gone up since the ceasefire is an all-timer. Like, I mean,
guys, seriously, how pathetic is this fucking industry that is a sentence that could be said? Like, why are we all so fucking dead? What are we fighting for here? It's video games.
By the way, that is some straight Orwellian shit. Like, chocolate rations have gone up, double plus good, isn't it? Like, bloody hell, what are you saying, man? This is outrageous.
I know. Actually, one of the most ridiculous quotes ever.
We're so desperate for money that these are the sentences we say now. Ralph Reichart, you're already set for life. You don't have to be like this, buddy. You have enough money. Stop.
Multi-millionaire many times over. It's fine. You don't have to do this, but you know they do this. This is just how it is.
Yeah, but the thing is, the dwarves of ESL dug too deep and greedily into the mines, Richard. They had to have all the fucking whatever mithril or whatever it was. They had to have it all, bro.
True.
You have to understand. This is, by the way, unironically, I'll actually just explain very simply for people why do people like Ralph Reichart keep going. That is the reason why, as far as I can tell, because they were the literal original gangsters of esports. The perception is this is their industry, so they're going to take it all, mate. Like, they're not doing that thing of like, but I've got enough now. No, it's like some power shit. Like, it's their fucking strip of land, mate. They're gonna milk it for everything it's worth.
Yep, absolutely.
And who would be more entitled than them? By the way, unironically, who would be? They also did build esports, but at the same time, they did a lot of fucked up things as well, unfortunately.
I mean, put it this way, it's like, look, you might have built it, but it's what you've done to fucking hold on to it. That's been the problem.
Agreed.
You know, that's always been ESL's like great evil is they could never fucking, you know, they could never share power. They could never like share a calendar even.
Agreed.
You know, it's just always who they are, and you know, teaming up with the Saudis is just an all fucking time, outrage. So yeah, I mean, look, I'll just say this: if you then believe that that's what Ralph Reichart is saying on April 30th, and then by May 20th, this hasn't come together rather suddenly, then again, I've got a bridge to sell you. And look, I went to Astana. And I said to some colleagues out there, I said, I'm being told, by the way, people are still going to be made to go to fucking Riyadh. And somebody said to me, I'm hearing a rumor it's getting moved to Paris. And so that's how kind of quickly it came around. Like, it was like, I had been told explicitly, people sources I trust, sources I know wouldn't lie or get their wires crossed or whatever it might be. Like, it was clearly internal messaging that we are still going to Riyadh.
Holy shit, it starts on the 6th of July.
Yeah.
That's so fucking soon, bro.
I know.
To move a massive event is so crazy.
Well, don't worry. Again, all fucking Donny tells me that there's a deal being made, and it's a great deal, and Duran has been defeated, and yeah, there's nothing to worry about.
By the way, this is how we'll know when esports has truly gone mainstream, though, Monty. The reason we know we're not yet is that will eventually be baked into the actual real geopolitics. It'll be Trump later. Now you can have your EWC. Won't be more American that you'll have some shit, and that'll be like part of the announcement in the future. It won't be now, but 10 years down the line, everyone will be referencing it directly. By the way, another thing I'm also thinking is, right, I'm going to guess most countries have a visa waiver to Saudi Arabia, but surely someone had to get a visa. So again, if you're working on these things, changing the event last minute is not a minor deal.
No.
In fact, that's even one thing I think about immediately, Richard. If they're switching the event about a month and a bit before the event begins, is there not some guy from some country that needs a visa where it takes like 3 weeks to apply or something? Is it not going to fuck someone like that? Surely someone gets affected by it,
Yeah, of course.
So everyone could go to France.
Well, I mean, look, we're already in a position where some people might have already, I'm sure we're going to hear stories similar to this. Some people might have already, let's say, for instance, turned around and said, like, I'm done. I'm not going to Riyadh. And they've told their org or whatever it might be, I'm not going. And you know what the party line is as well? We'll never make our players go to Riyadh. Yeah, let's see what happens when the Nations Cup comes rolling around and your stipends are being threatened. Let's see how you feel about that principle then. But anyway, so maybe some players have said, I'm not doing it, not now. I had no objection to going to Riyadh, but during a war, I'm just not going.
No, totally fine. Yeah.
So maybe some people have dropped out, and then the org might have made other plans, and now it's in Paris. There'll probably be some stuff like that coming up. I mean, it's also, look, the way they've sold the move to Paris is also just hilarious in and of itself. That it's like, oh, well, we were always going to take it on the road. No, you weren't. And we're super happy that it's going to Paris. No, you're not. And Paris is a great place to have it because of all these things. Well, yeah, you've got so many people who've got their fucking tongue up the collective Saudi arsehole that, yeah, actually, France is a great place for it to go because they're all fucking shameless when it comes to money. You think about the two big orgs in France; they don't give a fuck about any of this on a matter of principle. They've obviously got access to the stadiums, right? I'm sure one of these orgs that is leasing a stadium is getting a nice big fat chunk of change to then release it to the fucking EWC. There's got to be there's loads this is just a last-minute opportunity for a bunch of people that were already in that circle, already taking money from Saudi, an opportunity essentially to earn even more and maybe get into the good books of Saudi for some nebulous favor.
I will also point out that France is a country in the middle of an economic crisis right now where they don't have money to pay old people's pensions. And, the tension is reaching a boiling point. So bringing in an event that is going to bring in hundreds of millions of dollars to France is probably pretty attractive.
Literal life-changing money.
Yeah, literal life-changing money. I mean, for me, I just think as well, the coordination of the announcement should tell you its own story as well. If you know how these things work in the press, right? Basically, what happens is these things are there'll be people who know, and it'll all be embargoed, and then there'll be people that might know, but they're not supposed to say anything. And then what you do is you hit it all at once. It's like, right, okay, Ralph Reichardt's going to announce it on the official EWC account, press release is going out, and then all of you can retweet it, and then all of you can reply to the press release going, see you there, cool, bro. And it was like, the fact that Emmanuel Macron was even in on this, like he's in his press offices in a Slack group with these guys to announce it at the same time is actually staggering to me. It's so cynical.
And also,
pathetic.
these things don't happen overnight. You can't get Macron to tweet about this.
No, of course not.
Unless it's been in the works for weeks.
Yeah, but it's what I'm saying. It has been in the work. But I mean, I don't think
obviously.
months. I don't think months. I think it's been in the works for weeks. But the point is, all the support staff and all the boots on the ground. And I know this for a fact. This is an absolute fact. I'm going to publish it and put my name on it, so that's how people know that that the boots on the ground staff were being told on the day before the announcement, the event is going to take place in Riyadh. Simple as that. Because people had heard the rumors that it was moving to Paris, and they started asking, are we going to Paris? Do I need to change things? Are there things I need to know? Blah, blah, blah. And they were being told, no, Riyadh. It's 100% Riyadh. It's 100% Riyadh. And then literally on the day that it was announced, they all got told, good news, everyone, we're going to Paris. And everyone was told we're going to bring the same crew, unless anybody, dropped out. So that was there. The schedule was all the same, like the days. It's still going to be over summer, but they might have to move a few dates. So this is what they've all been told. Like, so this literally, unless you were above a certain pay grade, as far as you were concerned, you were going to Riyadh. This is not like some slick operation that has been in the move for months, where it's going to be a well-oiled machine to get it out there. This is a last-minute mad fucking scramble where perhaps, arguably some of the most important pieces, most important cogs in the machine didn't even know this was happening.
Yep.
So, I've never seen anything like it. I've seen events like cancelled.
Well, and it's obviously going to affect the quality of the event because it's just simply not going to be as good on this short of a timetable.
Well, in some ways, yes, but I think it's put it this way.
Oh, the crowds will be better for sure.
Here's the next problem. How are Saudi Arabia gonna deal with being crowd mogged by the French?
Those dirty French always crowd maxing.
Yeah, I'm not even joking, because obviously, okay, if you want to see the most egregious use of the fisheye lens in any photography, go look at the crowd shots from the Esports World Cup.
Oh, of course.
It is like, you're like, what the fuck am I even looking at? Like, to try and make it look like the 400 people or whatever they managed to attract. And by the way, they were literally paying teams to bus in their own fans, right? So they are going to be, they are ultra sensitive about this. I even wrote about this last time. One of the reasons they were furious was because the crowds didn't look that great. And it was just like a bunch of there was 40 Saudi people in a stand, in the full national dress. And it doesn't look like there's a lot of fans in Saudi.
Didn't look like huge, mate.
Yeah, no,
tiny.
Even.
Yeah.
And so the fans don't, so not only does it look like there's not a lot of fans in Saudi, it doesn't look very fucking progressive either. It's not like a cross-section, of society or anything like that, which is the image that they want to project. They drive now, remember? So obviously, it's a disaster. And now they're going to move to Paris for it's only the third one they've done. And the crowd's going to be conservatively 10 times the size, maybe 20 times the size.
Yeah.
Crowd's going to be huge. Everyone's going to be having a good time.
All those European Counter-Strike fans clubs will be there. It'll actually be insane, yeah.
What's going to happen to Falcons? As an org, remember, this is constructed in such a way that Falcons are meant to win these events, but it's okay. It's on home soil. Well, what happens now that it's not on home soil? The Vitality get to maybe have, let's say, as many competitive teams as Falcons now, something that implicitly hasn't been allowed up until this point, as evidenced by the fact no one does it, even though the teams are essentially paid for by the Esports World Cup Foundation. So are Vitality allowed to win on home soil? Or is that not going to happen? What's going to happen with the trophy parade? Is MBS going to come and celebrate it in France? Is that going to happen? Are you going to make everyone stay like you did in Saudi? Make all the players and all the fans.
By the way, he delayed the event in Saudi by being late to showing up. Can't do that in Paris.
Well, can you? Macron's a bitch. Macron is bitch made for Saudi. So, can it happen? Yeah, probably, actually. Probably anything Saudi want to do in Paris. They can do, they would have the same rights, presumably, in Paris as they do in Riyadh if Macron's rolling out the red carpet. So possibly. You know, but like, I'm just saying, these are all massive questions because this is another reason why, you know, it's all bullshit about them having it internationally. The whole purpose of the exercise was to A, generate jobs for Saudi Arabian people, B, put on an event for a young Saudi Arabian population, because bread and circuses might stop them getting upset about morality police and other things, which, by the way,
And
MBS
leaving,
has also stopped.
honestly.
Yeah. Or maybe
And leaving
leaving it.
Saudi.
Yeah, absolutely. It's an
Yeah.
unbelievably young country. So, and also it shows we are super competent here in Saudi Arabia. We can run global events.
Yeah.
Bring your global event to Saudi and work with us as partners. And also, not only is Saudi Arabia hyper competent when it comes to running events, we're hyper competent when it comes to winning events. And that is the whole point of this.
Sure.
Because, and also, while they're doing this, and look over here, look over here, look over here, when they're doing all of this, right, they're distracting you from the fact that they're one of the biggest human rights abusers on the fucking planet, right? And you're going, oh, that esports event was fire, though. Look at the Falcons fans with the drums and wow.
I don't get into politics. I just watch the games.
Yeah, exactly. I just watch the games. Keep politics out of esports, you bigot.
Exactly.
Yeah, right. So,
by the way, I'll even give you another angle. Here's why it's obvious they didn't want to do this now. Like you say, even if they say they were going to do it eventually, they mean 10 years down the line when they've made it like a product that can be decoupled from the Saudi state. Here's why they wouldn't want to do this, Richard. Because if it was possible to just have it in other countries, you wouldn't start in Saudi Arabia and have this massive industry-wide war where you force people with more rates to go there and break all their morals. What you do is you do the first 5 in France and Germany and all the countries everyone can already go to. You get everyone on board. They'd even have them say for the first 5 events, I'm not going to go to Saudi Arabia ever. I'm just doing the event because it's you do the Frankie like, wait, isn't it the same person hiring me? But the event is in Sweden. I know nothing about a Saudi person. And then down the line, you make them make the last choice. Instead, you did the opposite. You tried to break everyone on year 1 because the first 10 years of this motherfucker were going to be in Riyadh. It's so obvious. That's why this like changing of the script last minute is so jarring, isn't it? Because it's obviously fake. Like there's no way. You wouldn't be, again, why would you pay people at the beginning of a project, pay people 6 figures to co-stream it if you could just pay them a normal rate and just have them go to Germany or something? You wouldn't do it, would you? You'd do that ages down. But the point is, the whole thing was clearly social engineering, and now sadly, you're not going to get anything for that. In fact, the biggest joke of all is, in some fucked up way, if you actually want them to have all these problems, this is one of the only ways a wrench could be thrown in the works, as it were. Like, there's nothing else could have stopped them having the event there, as far as I can tell.
If you're really busy this summer, the first thing that may fall by the wayside is eating healthy. If you've been out all day, then you might be tempted to order some delivery or takeout or make other unhealthy choices. But what if a Factor meal was just waiting there in your fridge? Because Factor will deliver you weekly meals in a refrigerated box. The food is never frozen. And all you have to do is heat it up for 2 minutes in the microwave. It will save you money and it will keep your health on track. They have meals built around your goals, whether that's weight loss, overall nutrition, more protein, GLP-1 support, even strength and workout recovery with their Factor Muscle Pro collection. You'll never get bored either. They have over 100 rotating weekly meals, so it's different even week to week, and you have 100 different choices. They have globally inspired flavors, including Mediterranean and Asian cuisine, so there's always something new to look forward to. And right now, you guys can head to factormeals.com/horsemen50off. That's plural, HORSEMEN 50 off. OFF, and use code HORSEMEN50off to get 50% off and free daily greens per box with new subscriptions only while supplies last until September 27th, 2026. See website for more details. Factor is really easy, guys. I enjoy it. I'm going back to the United States soon, so I'm going to be enjoying hopping on Factor while I'm busy working during the day. It makes a great lunch. They also have protein shakes. They have breakfast options, so certainly worth your time. It's also extremely easy to use. If you're ever going to be on vacation or want to skip a week, you can just pause the deliveries. No extra charges, nothing like that at all. So Factor is fantastic. And of course, supporting our sponsors helps the Four Horsemen keep on rolling. So if you've been thinking about trying it, go ahead and use our code factormeals.com/horsemen50off.
I mean, and then we get into a much bigger question. This is a good section for you here, Monty, because look, there's already speculation that the sports empire that Saudi is trying to build is unraveling. because of what we've seen what's happened with the Live Golf. And and again, I'll give a brief overview. Obviously, I don't follow golf. The CS talent are getting heavily into it right now, apparently. So might have to be something else I've got to adopt. Bad enough that was Magic the Gathering, and now people are playing fucking golf as well. Like, what are we doing, boys?
I even thought about you when I saw them all playing.
Richard, why can't they do something cool?
I think, well,
because they've become daughter, bro. Everyone's daughter now. They're all just playing Magic the Gathering. Mate, the way I knew it was done is Henry G is playing Magic the Gathering. He was sex, drugs, and rock and roll. If even he's like, nah. I even had a shit joke, like, before I was worried he'd be in an early grave. Now he dreams of early access to his graveyard. Whatever.
Yeah. No, it's not
the best material.
Not bad. Workshop it.
Yeah.
But no,
but anyway, one, I can't believe even Henry's doing that. And then two, I imagine Richard walking into this melange like, so what are we doing tonight, lads? Well, I'm thinking of playing a blue-red deck. No, but what are we?
Just as a sidebar, right? I'll say this. Like, I think it's actually, because we're all getting older now. We're like mid-30s.
Okay.
I'm in my 40s. It would be mad cringe if we were still like, the odd rager still occurs. Sure. I think it would be mad cringe if we were still doing it. And like, I'm an OG Magic player anyway. I didn't mind the return of Magic, so we weren't out there thrashing ourselves every day. That was fine. Golf is exclusionary to me because that's a very expensive hobby, and I can't even hit the ball. So, so that's.
All I'm going to say is, technically, you are right. If every CS talent had already been playing Magic after all the events, there'd be a lot less cancellations.
I mean, I'll say
you can fill in the blanks on that one, guy.
Listen,
you can fill in the blanks on that.
Listen, everyone's favorite race car driver would still be here if he was a Magic the Gathering player. Put it that way. So anyway, golf, right? Live Golf. Basically, it goes like this, right? The Saudis wanted to control golf, and there were two, and they created Live, Liv. I know what it stands for, isn't it? Like a Roman numeral, and because it's the.
I don't know. Like that.
Yeah,
anyway, continue.
It is meant to be the Roman numeral. Anyway, not really relevant. And of course, they were going up against the PGA Tour. And basically, it created this schism in the sport where some people wanted to go like with Live because it was more money. But go on.
Hold up. It's important to note that they threw so much money at this thing that they basically outspent the PGA. So what they were doing was that they were spending more money than it is fucking possible to earn from professional golf, because the PGA was already earning all of the money from professional golf. So, this sport just couldn't earn more money.
Yeah.
Remind you of something? Might remind you of esports, actually. But anyway,
then the head of
people more money than was sustainable.
The head of the PGA Golf said, we're not going to merge with Live to create a global tour, and we're not going to acquiesce to the Saudis coming in and trying to muscle us. And we are going to say, like, if you pick that tour, maybe we punish you and exclude you from the PGA Tour. And then quite famously, the head of PGA Golf came out and said, I would consider it an insult to all of the families that died in 9/11 if we were to then go and do business with the Saudis. Fast forward about 6 months.
Based quote.
Based quote.
That's hilarious, isn't it?
But fast forward about 6 months, and he was doing business with the Saudis and apologizing for his earlier ignorance.
He did become a bitch. But by the way, Richard, what happened after that was, then basically they were going to be just drowned in money. Like it looked like they were going to lose to Live Golf. But I think the PGA brand really helped them, and people, I think, saw through the Live Golf thing. Mm-hmm. And also, it has to be pointed out that, the conflicts and the global economy did lower the price of oil, which caused problems earlier this year in terms of funding the sovereign wealth fund.
I can say this, that after the adjustment in crude oil prices, it created a budget deficit of $73 billion for Saudi. That's how hard they were hit.
So they've been more cautious about spending, and so effectively, like, PGA lived, I guess, but not live. Anyway, that was accidental. But PGA survived the hostile takeover, and so Live couldn't actually outspend them, and they then ultimately PGA refused to merge with them after saying they were going to merge with them and become one entity.
Yeah,
and so now Live is being shuttered. The golfers that signed the Live contracts are now being iced out by PGA to punish them, which is very funny.
Yeah. So anyway, the long and the short now is Live Golf is now not funded by the PIF.
They also just stopped paying the
yeah.
contracts, by the way.
Yes.
They stopped paying the contracts of the golfers.
Yeah, and the quote the PIF gave was, the substantial investment required is no longer consistent with the current phase of PIF's investment strategy. This decision has been made in light of PIF's investment priorities and current macro dynamics. So in other words, this thing that they absolutely wanted to dominate, because it was just another sport that they could go in, buy up, and totally take over, thus creating the sports washing effect. Yep. That all of a sudden it isn't worth it anymore. Well, why isn't it worth it anymore? Well, because ultimately the return, like, put it this way, it's not going to be worth spending that fraction of PIF funds, especially as the PIF contracts due to what's going on with the national budget. It's not worth it just for golf. It might be worth it for other sports, pushing the Saudi Arabian Football League and continuing to import big names and to pay Messi and to push for the World Cup and all these other things. But they cancelled the Winter Games in 2029. That's cancelled indefinitely. Again, the hilarity of the Winter Games being held in one of the warmest fucking countries in the world, right? Not a problem. But that's been cancelled as well. Why? It's the Winter Games. Right? It's the Winter Games. No one gives a fuck. Now, you know what's smaller than the Winter Games and smaller than golf, no matter what we say? To the contrary, fucking esports. And if the whole point of esports was to have esports events in Riyadh, and we're no longer doing them in Riyadh because of all this global conflict, I'd be real fucking worried going into next year.
So here's the thing. I would love for them to pull out of esports. Don't get me wrong, but I don't think they're going to do it. The reason why they're pulling out of golf is because they failed to take over golf. They threw a bunch of money at it, and they could not actually defeat the PGA. So the thing is that they've already won esports. They have all the developers and publishers on board with them who want the money. They have ESL. They know that the publishers are desperate to foist the costs of the esports leagues that they set up internally. There's nothing Riot would love more than to just have ESL produce their events and Saudis foot the bill of their leagues, right? Because they know they maintain enough control because they have the IP to just have the leagues look how they want, but they don't have to pay for it anymore. The problem is with esports is that they've already won, and they've won at a very, very small cost compared to golf. So for all the people saying, well, I don't know if Live Golf is dying, how long are they going to invest in esports? It's like, I think they are accomplishing the goals that they failed to accomplish in golf in esports, unfortunately. So I don't really foresee them, pulling out of this.
Yeah.
Esports World Cup will be back in Riyadh next year. And
let's see. The world is a strange fucking place. For me, all I'm saying is and again, there's rumors circulating that MBS and the Saudi Arabian state didn't want to move this. I have no idea if that's true. I don't have access to that kind of information currently. But I was told, by people who were like, maybe I know, maybe I don't. That level of bullshit. Not anything I would ever use credibly in reporting. But I've heard that people seem to think MBS and the Saudi Arabian state still wanted it in Saudi and didn't want to move it. And now they're pissed off that ultimately everyone else has kind of seen the wisdom of having to move it. And they're a resentful, petulant group of people. It's always been their way or the highway. If you don't follow exactly what they want to do, you get frozen out. That's the other aspect to all of this. All of these, it's no coincidence that all of these partners of theirs all acknowledge that what the Saudi Arabian state is doing is bad, but instead have to project this fever dream out there into the esports world that it's getting better, when in fact by almost every other conceivable metric other than them driving now, it isn't getting better. In fact, actually it's getting worse. More refugees were killed at the border, more executions by the state than in any other year, including mass executions. It's not like they're suddenly becoming a bastion of human rights. High-profile women's rights activists arrested, sentenced to prison for over a decade. We've got infiltration of social media accounts. Students from Britain, or rather students who were studying in Britain from Saudi Arabia, returning home and being arrested at the airport for things that they'd said critical of the Saudi Arabian kingdom. All of these things are out there, right? And so obviously, if you're a regular viewer, you'll have heard us say these things over and over and over again, particularly if you're a viewer of my stuff as well as a viewer of us. But these people they all say the same thing, and that is that no, it is improving, even though it objectively.
There's also the
is
whole
not
problem
improving.
as well, which is obviously very relevant right now to this discussion, that because they're a rare example of a Western ally in that region, it's also a famous thing that when the West's your ally, they sort of go, we'll turn a blind eye to this stuff you're doing here, unfortunately, because they don't want to call you out. So that makes it worse too, unfortunately.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And look, this conflict that's happened. I mean, again, I never thought I would see this in my lifetime. You've got the Saudi Arabian government arresting anti-Israel protesters in Saudi Arabia because the head of the Saudi Arabian state wants to normalize relations with Israel and have the similar kind of relationship that was being pushed by the Abraham Accords. And also, they are supporting America on an attack on an Islamic nation that was.
Think how the reason it doesn't work is everyone's been trained to think of like everyone in the Middle East hates America and Muslims versus like Jews versus Christians, but none of that applies. This is just some geopolitics shit in it.
Yeah, I mean, look, obviously, I will say what's been happening with Israel is definitely, turbocharged the American focus on Iran and its nuclear capabilities, which is, again, ostensibly what this is all about. I just think this has been a complete clusterfuck, and it's a conflict essentially founded on ignorance and the whims of a president that has become increasingly less concerned with how his actions reflect on the office and affect the country he theoretically presides over. But ultimately, this is the situation we're in. It isn't safe to go to Saudi Arabia right now. It isn't safe to go to Dubai right now. I mean, here in Britain, we're being given these like travel advisories about like other countries, because Turkey neighbors with Syria, that's been a problem. There's been like other certain parts, it's already bad enough, like trying to not fly over Ukrainian airspace when you go out to Eastern Europe. And other countries. So there's a lot going on right now, and it is a genuine and valid concern.
Right now, the American government has put a level 3 travel advisory on Saudi Arabia and has evacuated most of the embassy staff from Saudi Arabia. So if you're an American team and you are seriously thinking about sending players there, that's such an absurd thing to do. Literally, the U.S. government is evacuating U.S. citizens.
Yeah.
By the way, I've always said as well, like this might sound like a dark pronouncement, but one of the ways you'll actually know that esports has entered mainstream consciousness is it's actually almost amazing there's never been anything approaching like a terrorist or a war-based thing affect an event. Like, think about it, right? If you ever wanted to do one action that could have ripples around the world, there is essentially some crazy diverse group of people, esports competitors, at one tournament that's being televised to millions on the internet. If you ever did some sort of action against that, whatever your course might be, luckily for us, people don't realize this yet, you could have a massive effect on the world. Like, that would be a pretty fucking big min-max sort of terrorist / state operation. So it's not like, again, if we had the event there, we'd be the ones off limits. If anything, that's a way to have like a grand stage for the world. Would it be it would be essentially, think of it as like a modern day Munich situation.
Well,
that reference.
This is the other part to it, right? It's like what would inoculate, for want of a better word, like an esports event from any of this. Like as you're alluding to there with the Black September reference. Obviously, sporting events of any stripe are often hijacked by radical groups or targeted, by other groups that want to make certain points. To have those statements essentially resonate. And so and we already know as well from last year, we know that the Israeli delegation to the Esports World Cup had to be given bodyguards and had to have people follow them around. Has anything improved? I mean, it's like, so obviously it's the right decision to move it. It was madness that the minute that this happened, there wasn't a statement put out by the Esports World Cup saying, look, we're going to monitor the situation. We'll have updates soon. But we'd always planned to have a roadshow, and Paris is one of those countries, so why not? But unfortunately, They really held on to the last minute to try and fucking get their, have their cake
That's
and
the
eat.
biggest giveaway of the whole news, isn't it? That this just proves what we've always said all along, conspiracy-wise, that like the whole thing's just about specifically Saudi Arabia, whereas instead, the way they always presented it was more like Saudi Arabia's just the best place to have the event. It's a cool place to go with your family. Like it was that whack shit as always like Disneyland or something, So like, yeah, the real giveaway here is, bro, if at the end they're like, but is the war really that bad that we need to move it? Then the whole thing was just about having this in Saudi Arabia, wasn't it? That was the whole event was just about that. It was the road to Riyadh. It always was.
No, but I mean, look, so just for another bit of information so everybody understands, one of the stated internal goals when ESL and Face It were acquired was that they wanted to have at least one prestigious esports event per year while the company was being gutted, essentially, to make them, financially viable. And that was, I mean, I don't know if when Ralph Reichart and all the boys signed a deal with Saudi, I don't know if they knew what they were getting into. I know they were pretty fucking desperate for a buyer.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, they were in talks with a big tech company, I think from Singapore, or it was certainly somewhere in Asia, prior to the Saudi Arabian state. It's like, unfortunately, though, as I've said, the only people that can really afford to underwrite esports right now are governments. They're the only people with a war chest big enough for this stupid, broken industry, populated by fans that want everything but pay fucking nothing, right? So, I mean, there's the problem. The bottom rung of the pyramid is perpetually fucked, and that's why we're here, and I'll die on that fucking hill. But anyway, so ESL, we're told, right, it's going to start at one event. And then by the time you're financially liquid, we want between 4 and 6 events in Riyadh. And the express purpose was, yes, have the events in Riyadh. Remember, internally, they wanted to move ESL Impact to Riyadh.
Yeah.
They wanted to have the women's final in Riyadh, but their production manager apparently fucking stymied that and said that there's no way that's happening on my
You're right,
watch.
actually, you could never have an esports parody website / news show.
Of course not.
Because even the statement ESL Impact League held in Riyadh, it's like, it's already absurd enough. You can't extend that further.
I wish in a way it had happened because then they would have had to get all the fans out for Impact.
Oh, yeah, true.
And so you would have had the exact same number of fans for Impact as you would have had for the World Cup, and that would have also given the game away. But but now they've got the ENC, they've invented this Nations Cup, and people keep telling me they go.
By the way, shout out to the Saudis though. They're like Riot in some ways, Monty. What they do is invent wheels, these things that what they've done, Monty. Listen, follow me on this one. They've started something called an Esports World Cup. That's a fucking genius idea. Someone should have done that years ago. Now they're going to invent something. It's almost like, I mean, what I'll do is I'll use what the Russians use. They don't call it esports, they call it cyber sports.
Yes.
It's almost like they're making a world cyber games in some way now. Well, it's incredible. I'm just waiting for them next to create some sort of a cyber athlete professionally. If they can do that as well, then they'll have invented everything in esports.
Which brings us perfectly to Monty's favorite entity, KeSPA.
Of course.
Yeah. Well, wait. So let me lead you to this. So I know you guys might be confused because you hear the name Esports World Cup and you think, is that like the World Cup? Remember, it's going to happen in America soon.
Oh yeah, I also love this.
World
They
Cup,
fucked up the branding completely as well, didn't they?
The World Cup, the World Cup is a nation competition where people of the same nationality compete against other people of different nationalities on national teams.
Exactly, yeah.
So that's what that's the World Cup. So clearly the Esports World Cup is a nation-based competition. Nope, that's incorrect. Instead, it's a club-based sport. So they could have called it, I don't know, Champions Esports League or something. But no, they didn't do that.
Angles.
So then, because they now need a nations competition, they have to make a new brand, even though they bought the old Esports World Cup brand, and they're going to call it the Esports Nations Cup instead of just changing the name of the Esports World Cup and then using that for the, I don't know. So the stupidity behind the branding here is breathtaking.
Especially because, as you're pointing out, Monty, if you ask anyone in the mainstream, they're going to go, the Esports Nations Cup, sort of like the World Cup of esports. It's like, by the way,
you can see
people don't know.
You guys
don't get this. shit like that really triggers Monty. Like, I don't think
Yeah, it
Monty has
does.
ever been more incandescent with rage than the day he came on the internet and they announced the logo for the team Immortals. And the team Immortals, the name of the Persian soldiers during that war, was the Spartan helmet.
Yeah.
Monty, I don't know, that was like his fucking red eye esports with a dash moment. Like,
I did go
actually
crazy.
did you in totally, didn't you? Because no one else cared. The best thing was that no pleb fan cared, but Monty was so mad at it. And also, Loki is triggering his fucking stupid.
I mean,
that got you that one, didn't it?
The fact that
It
fact that it was also there after 300, it does make
I
it
know,
inexcusable.
I know.
It
It
makes
was
it
so mental, wasn't it? I know.
So fair enough.
So anyway, and that is what's funny though, is that the BBC is going to have to write an article now to explain to the plebs.
Yeah.
The Esports Nation Cup is kind of like the World Cup of esports, not to be confused with the Esports World Cup.
Run by the same tournament organizer.
Run by the same
Oh,
tournament.
my
Oh yeah,
God.
Jesus Christ, what a fucking train wreck!
What a world.
But yes, so KeSPA. So basically, what the Esports Nations Cup has done was it is now they want to be the Olympics. Remember how we talked previously about how the Olympics thought. By the way, the Olympics thought that Saudi Arabia was maybe not the right country to hold
they
the
turned them down,
Esports
didn't they?
Olympics in, as we've discussed previously on this show. So they said, fuck it, we'll make our own Esports Olympics without blackjack and hookers very, deliberately. And so now they're starting to deal with all these national federations. And they did probably one of the funniest amateur moves I've ever seen in esports. And by the way, only the combination of ESL and the Saudi government could make a fuck up this bad. Because remember, ESL has never really been involved in Korean esports, right? And they don't really have an arm of, they don't have expertise in this area like Riot does, for sure. But ESL, sure, you'll be like, oh, they held this event in Korea. Yeah, they've held a couple of events, but they've relied very specifically on local partners and people like that. They've never been part of the continuing fabric of Korean professional events in the way that other Blizzard or Riot or other tournament operators and publishers have been. So when they come in, and KeSPA is the Korean Esports Association, for those of you who don't know, they have been around for like 20 plus years at this point in time, and they are deeply tied in with the Korean government. And they they may have had a bunch of corrupt politicians who worked with them who then got arrested for non-KeSPA things, I will say that. Let's just say KeSPA may not have the best reputation of being a honest and forthright entity. But that doesn't matter, because the truth about KeSPA is that they are so ingrained in the government, and the Korean government views esports as a way of projecting soft power around the world due to Korean excellence in, I would say, a similar way to K-dramas, K-pop, their other cultural enterprises. Faker is rightfully viewed as a national treasure and there is no doubt that Faker is one of, if not, I will say this, the most famous Korean person on earth. Like, that may actually be a true statement.
Monty, I can tell you, I even confirmed it by just doing a Google now. KeSPA is actually authorized by the Ministry of Culture, Sport and Tourism for exactly the reason you're saying.
Yes. And so you might say Son, the soccer player, maybe he's the most famous Korean player on earth, right? Possibly, or Korean person on earth.
Faker's got to be up there, though, for sure.
I mean, Kim Jong-un is probably the most famous technical Korean person on earth, most famous, but he's not part of South
Rocket
Korea.
Man.
He's the Rocket Man. and
you forgot that.
Obviously BTS, they're Psy. Maybe he's not. Maybe that's an exaggeration. But in the world of sports, let's just say the world of sports, it's like him and Son, right, are top two. And so he is extraordinarily famous globally. And they know that this brings money into South Korea. The fact that people know about SK Telecom and, these big, massive Korean multi-billion-dollar conglomerates is because of esports players, right? Anyway, this is all to say that, they are tied in with the Korean government, and they serve very specific functions. And among those functions, and the most important one to this story, is that they are the entity that selects players for the Asian Games. Now, the Asian Games is the Olympic Committee's Asian competition that happens every few years. And why this is important is because there is mandatory military service for everybody, every male in Korea. And so if you are a man, you are expected at some point in time, typically between when you were about 18 and about 30, where it has been shortened. It used to be 2 years. It's about 14, 15 months right now. So it's actually not the career killer that it used to be, because you're out for a little more than a year and you can bounce back. But basically they select that. And why this is important is because there's only a couple ways to get out of Korean military service. Even K-pop stars have to go to Korean military, guys. BTS was just in Korean military. There's basically 2 ways to get out. You win an Olympic gold medal, or you win an Asian Games gold medal.
Yep.
Okay? And that exempts you from service. And so the power that is given to KeSPA in regards to relationships with teams, because the teams do not want their players to go to the military and lose them. Right? And the players don't want to go to the military and lose opportunities.
It was even implied, Monty, that I think it might be in Viper or something. A famous Korean player even came back from the LPL to the LCK, hoping it would get him into one of these teams and get him the exception not have to go to the military, something like that.
And you might say, well, isn't it hard to win a gold medal at the Asian Games? No, not for Korea.
They're the main favorite. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, they're like, China's good, but they really have one real competitor, and it's China.
Yes.
And even then, they usually beat China. So, if you are selected as a player, you probably have something like a 75% chance of not going to the military, which is way better than anybody else ever. Because I can tell you right now, the Korean soccer team typically isn't going to win an Asian Games gold or By
the way, this was even an angle people missed. When Arnold from Gen G was upset about one of his players not getting picked, he couldn't be explicit about this for obvious reasons, Monty, because then you get in trouble. But it wasn't just some minor thing, like he's mad he didn't get the team. He's mad because that player might have his career end at the end of this year now, because he won't be able to get the exception because they picked a different player. Also, by the way,
who is already exempt, by the way.
Another reason why even this whole thing about KeSPA essentially is using esports itself as a way to present Korea and its success around the world, that has even directly been a problem in this exact case, because right now, for example, Faker actually isn't even close to the best mid lane. There's a bunch of other people you would pick, but the point is they want it to be Faker because he's the household name, Monty. That's the one that everyone, and it's assumed even the Saudis want him in the ENC, etc. So there's even that aspect where now you're getting the selection might even be skewed based on popularity and shit like that.
Yeah, because basically also there might be bias of if KeSPA's, you can accuse KeSPA of bias, I guess, but the bigger bias would be if a different organization, because let's say they are favoring partner teams from the Esports World Cup or the Esports World Cup Foundation, what happens if a player is a really good player is not on a partner team?
I'm not sure, but I'm going to guess Katie Rolster's not there. BDD's better than Faker right now, but you probably can't get on for that reason. Yeah.
Well, what about Diablo's a player like that too? You know what I mean?
Sure.
So anyway, this is all. But the point is that what happened was that they tried to strong arm KeSPA. And I can tell you right now, everybody's tried to strong arm KeSPA. Blizzard's tried to strong arm KeSPA.
Yeah.
Riot's tried to strong arm KeSPA. No one has been able to strong arm KeSPA so far. They have an iron grip on this scene because the punishment, first off, it's let's say you're a team in Korea. You really want to fuck with the Korean government? No, you don't. Let's say you're a player. You want to object to this? Well, maybe you don't get selected for the Asian Games at this point in time because KeSPA is bitter and they just decide to take another player instead of you. So now you have to go do military service. So the point is that there ain't nobody who's going to be like, you know what? Fuck KeSPA. I'm going to go to the Esports Nations Cup for some other governing body that selected this. And what happened is that KeSPA came out and said, nah, we're not dealing with these clowns over here in the Esports Nations Cup. And then the Esports Nations Cup said, we're looking for a different Korean partner. Crickets, of course. Nobody's standing up.
There literally isn't anybody.
Yeah. Because who's going to stand up and be like, actually, I am the representative of Korea. It's no, you're not. KeSPA is. They're tied in with the Korean government, and also no one's going to follow you because there's a price to be paid in retribution, possibly from KeSPA, So nobody stood up. And then at the end of the day, here they come again. KeSPA announces, oh, we've had an incredible breakthrough, which, by the way, means, oh, well, you Saudis paid us a bunch of money.
Yeah.
That's the translation. And probably what happened before is that the Saudis came and they're like, KeSPA, come be part of our Esports Nations Cup. It'd be nice if people suspect they were trying to influence the player selections, and KeSPA wanted none of that.
Fake are there? Yes, of course.
I also think probably that KeSPA wanted more money than they were willing to pay. And, because they could demand any price. They know the Saudis are rich. The KeSPA was the only game in town. And so when the Saudis were like, nah, we'll just find somebody else, they just sat there like, okay, good luck. And then
there's also a point I was trying to make to people that they don't get is this also shows you that actually EWC as a project and ENC, which is obviously just being launched now, aren't actually at the level that Saudis want them at yet, because they're just pretending with media that they're already World Cups.
Yeah.
No, what this basically shows is this, Monty. As far as the Koreans are concerned, the Asian Games is a real Olympics type thing. That's really important.
It is.
In fact, they've even based, you don't have to do military service. Even though, as you say, even superstar pop stars have to go and do that.
Yep.
But this other one, to them, they don't know what ENC is yet. For all they know, it's just going to be some gag all-stars, not that important thing. So at the moment, unless you pay them, why would they be involved? They've already got their little Olympics thing there. And you can even argue, right now, Asian Olympics is more important to them than the World Olympics anyway. It's more important to be a supremacist within Asia, right?
Yeah, and here's the other thing is that the arrogance of the Saudi control of and ESL is that the egg on their face for people within the esports industry of the fact that you told KeSPA to fuck up. KeSPA is the most storied, prestigious governing body of any nation in the world. You cannot, if you need one thing to buy in, it's KeSPA. If you want to be legitimized, KeSPA has to buy in.
Let me give people a quick explanation. If people don't know, the other reason why this is really complicated is because there's no Western parallel in esports that you can draw a parallel to. Famously, Richard and my country, the UK, is full of fake versions of KeSPA. There's a million people that say they're a federation or a union, or they're going to have so many people even claim they're going to have connection to the government, but it's never actually happened. It's always been fraudulent in the West, or a shit startup thing that never went anywhere, never was a pervasive. Not only, if people don't know, there's a level of which KeSPA has control that you've never seen elsewhere. For example, as far as I know, they're the ones who issue the pro licenses to be a professional gamer in Korea. If you don't have that, you cannot actually play esports games in major tournaments. Because also the other thing is, I always explain it like this: the best parallel actually for KeSPA, as far as I can tell, is how regulatory bodies work in American politics. You get those stories that we've all heard in every industry. So the example would be, I could tie it to our foreplay episode. If it's an environmental unit, the EPA, you'll find that the EPA will appoint someone. It's but didn't he just work for BP Oil? And then the joke is, after the guy's worked for the EPA, he then goes and works for Chevron or whatever. And you're wait a minute, this is a bit incestuous. The people on the regulatory board are also the people who are the one being regulated. As far as I know, KeSPA is quite similar. KeSPA itself isn't just a separate entity. It's made up of people who are in the teams that play at KeSPA, T1, etc. Then it's made up of people who are in the broadcasting partners, which, by the way, they decide who broadcasts the games. Then it's made up of people within the government, and eventually it's everyone all together mixed in. They just have different. It's like American politics. You have different groups have different concerns, but sometimes the same person's in three groups. So the other thing is as well, this isn't just some separate entity of we'll do it without KeSPA. KeSPA is esports in Korea, as far as I can tell. There's a reason they have this level of control. They are ubiquitous, as far as I can. British Way, Monty, as far as I know, no one's ever beaten KeSPA. I won't go into the whole thing, because I've given my own version of this a million times. But they are the only people I've ever seen. I always complain that the most godlike people in esports is the game developers, because in Western countries, IP law means you are God. You can do anything you want with that game. You won't all that. You could tell us if we were streaming the game, you can't stream it anymore. You can shut down a tournament. You can do a million things. But the difference is, when Blizzard, who made StarCraft, tried to go to KeSPA in Korea and go, hey, what are you doing using our IP? KeSPA basically fought back in a lawsuit, and the lawsuit ended, in theory, with KeSPA losing, but then getting the rights to broadcast the game on their channels, which is To me, that's like, actually, that implies, Monty, they didn't lose. They like half won, even though in any country that wasn't China or Korea, you'd never be able to do that with someone who had the IP rights. So it actually implies that KeSPA basically is so big, they can't be extricated from esports.
Yeah.
So the idea the Saudis were going to go. The real joke here is this. This is the hubris, Monty. The Saudis thought they were the KeSPA of esports now. They're like, hey, we're going to do whatever we want. If you don't do it with us, and then KeSPA was like, listen, we are the OGs of this industry. Like they exactly.
Well,
it's also known. You're in someone else's territory, homie. They're the original gangsters of their space, mate.
Yeah, but the hubris that you could just like rock up and it's like, yeah, you know what? We're Saudi Arabia, and the Korean government will surely just recognize another federation just to be our Mickey Mouse tournament. By the way, here's the thing: is like, it's the hilarious thing is what's king in Korea? League of Legends. What happens in November in League of Legends? Oh, right, the World Championship. They place this stupid, dumbass tournament like a week or two after the World Championship. And by the way, the Asian Games is also in the second half of 2026. So it's not it is optimistically the third most important tournament of 2026. And you thought you could strong arm the teams?
The only time I've ever seen anyone come close to actually owning KeSPA was Activision Blizzard. And what they did was when StarCraft 2 came out, they sort of quite cynically used, and Duncan will be able to attest to this, they quite cynically used the match fixing scandal in Brood War as essentially a way to go, well, look, because remember that the fans were fanatical about Brood War, and having that
for sure
happen really upset a lot of fans to the point where they were going, I can't even watch the sport anymore. Yeah. What's the point if you don't even know if the games are real? And Activision Blizzard were like, well, you know, new game, new start, new players, who knows? And so basically, like, KeSPA had always said, like, we're going to be Brood War first and foremost because that's our infrastructure, that's our history, that's our background, that's our players, that's our narratives, etc. And then obviously, like, they did essentially take up StarCraft 2, which was a fresh start up until about 2015 when everyone started match fixing again, if indeed it ever stopped, which it did. So that's the only time. That's the only time I've seen them do something that I don't think they wanted to do. So that's a pretty good fucking record. As in, you bent the knee theoretically once to the people that made the game that you used to be relevant. You know, that's mad.
Also, think about this. The other reason, just like the Asian Games one as well, Monty, right? This is a big deal. Think about this, right? If this was a trip, I'll give you an example. If people don't know, like in Valorant, for example, actually one of the few esports that has a lot of parity between all the regions. In theory, it wouldn't be the end of the world if one country in Valorant said they didn't want to compete, Monty. But just like in the Asian Games, in League of Legends, Korea is it. Korea is the number one country you have to have in your Esports Nations Cup. In fact, isn't the number one problem we all said, Monty, when they announced the Esports Nations Cup? Wait a minute, isn't that just going to be China and Korea dick everyone in League of Legends? And then you have like, you know, maybe Denmark's half decent or France or something. But no one ever really thinks France is winning the fucking competition. Whereas the difference is Korea, if they send a real team, should be the number one favorite to win the whole thing. So if you don't get them to go, how do you then establish to others that it's real? Because by the way, Monty, that's not a minor deal either. Other countries will go as Korea goes. Like, I don't know if you saw this, but there was even already news that, for example, even a small country, by the way, like Slovenia, some of their players, like Mickey X and Nemesis and stuff, said they didn't want to play in this tournament. Probably because, like, Mickey X already has a pro career, maybe he doesn't want an off-season tournament. Maybe he doesn't know if it's a big enough thing yet. Maybe he doesn't know if it's actually going to be important or just, like I say, some all-star LOL exhibition tournament. So right now, actually, it's really important that you say not only is Korea going, but they are sending Faker. Literally, Faker will be there, guys. To Faker there, surely all the other pros turn up.
I'll give you. Well, I can give you. I can give you a real life example for something similar about, like, you know, what the federation wanted compared to, you know, what maybe is good for the national team, and it happened in Italia '90, the World Cup in Italy, and basically it was about Cameroon, the Indomitable Lions, the great football team. Roger Miller was a retired football player who had like if you believe his career, he scored more goals than Pele.
One of those Pele ones, sure.
Yeah, none of it's verifiable.
Sadly, we had to all learn, if you literally, even though it's sad, the sportsmen, if they don't have it on video, they're probably lying, unfortunately. That's just the way it turned out. Like, if you don't know Monty, at one point in time, they used to say Pele had scored like 900 goals. Then he just was like, no, it's like 1,000 something, but no one has it on video, so we can't prove it. Just lying.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
So Roger Miller was 38, which, by the way, playing at 38 back then was unprecedented. And but he was personal friends with the president, Paul Biya of Cameroon. So the president called up the manager of the national team and said, I want you to pick Roger Miller. Roger Miller must go to the World Cup. A 38-year-old retired player.
That's ridiculous.
And obviously they had to pick him because, you know, if you didn't, it was, you know, bad news. You know, I'm sure Paul Biya was a lovely man, but, you know, we're just saying African presidents maybe do what they tell you.
Yeah.
And ultimately, he went and ended up scoring a bunch of goals at the tournament, and he did this little dance when he did, and everybody loved him, but he only got in the team because of sort of cronyism at the highest level of government. And obviously what's going to happen here is, because you remember, Faker loves MBS. MBS and Faker are in this bromance. Right?
Two peas in a pod, isn't it?
I know. Faker says, oh, if I could have dinner with 3 people, alive or dead, it would be, you know, Einstein, Marilyn Monroe, and MBS. It's like this, right? And MBS says, if I could have dinner with 3 people, which I can at any time because I can just rendition them to my country using a combination of black sites and illegal ops, I would definitely have dinner with Faker. He'd be one of them. So, you know, there you go. So obviously Faker has to go to he has to be in the Nations Cup. I mean, fuck knows what dirty, horrible strings are going to get pulled behind the scenes to make that a reality. But no, there's no way Faker won't be there in some capacity.
Of course. But it's a worst case scenario, they'll make him the sub, and then he'll still get to go. You know,
by the way, that's what happened at the last Asian Games with Faker. Is that
because at the time you'd have to pick Chovy or something, wouldn't you? But there was a way to get him in the team.
The person who the mid laner who won the tournament was Chovy. It wasn't Faker. Faker was riding the pine.
Yes. By the way, and then you also have to throw in, here's another example of where business interacts with competitive integrity. Not only have they done all these forward-facing things with T1 and the Saudis, but remember, they're also sponsored by that, like, Red Sea fucking, like, oil companies again, so they're also super deep within the industry element. So, again, the real problem with this is, if you are KT Roasters BDD, it's like, sorry, mate, you just play League of Legends. The other guy has all those political considerations, but you just slightly better at hitting CS in lane. That doesn't meet our threshold to be on the team. I'm afraid, I love it.
This message is sponsored by Raycon. And if you're going outside this summer, but you still want to really lock into what you're listening, perhaps our podcast, you might want to check out the Raycon Everyday Earbuds Classic that I'm holding right here. I was actually using these at the gym yesterday. They work fantastic. I was listening to a podcast with an astrophysicist, but if you like Last Free Nations content, these are a great way to listen to us. They have active noise cancellation, so you're not going to hear anything around you. I've used them on planes, subways, buses, all kinds of public transportation, and I've been able to watch shows and listen to music and podcasts extremely easily. They also have an awareness mode if you want to hear what's going on around you. They're extremely comfortable. They don't fall out while you're working out. They, of course, have different tips depending on your ear sizes, and they have a variety of colors. I like the black ones because I'm basic, but they also have a cool mint color, so there's a lot of ways to personalize your look, and they're pretty unique because a lot of earbuds don't come in those shades. They deliver the same audio quality premium as the big brands, but at half the price. They're able to do that because they sell directly to you and they're not in stores. They have over 3 million happy customers, and they have a 30-day happiness guarantee. So if you do not like your Raycon Everyday Earbuds, there's not really a risk to going in and getting them because you can return them within those 30 days. The Everyday Earbuds Classic are the perfect addition to your everyday routine. You guys can go to buyraycon.com/horsemen. That's Horsemen plural, HORSEMEN, to get 15% off. And thank you very much to Raycon for sponsoring our show. Of course, sponsors support us. And if you guys support our sponsors, it helps us keep the Four Horsemen going. So if you're looking for some new earbuds, can't recommend Raycon enough. Check them out.
So, I mean, the Nations Cup's going to be an interesting one. There's going to be lots that's tested there. Like, we know, as of now, whether this will change or not, I don't know. We know, for instance, Russia aren't allowed to participate in team-based esports.
Yep.
Right? So Russia arguably would have one of the best teams, if not the best team.
I mean, in Counter-Strike, they'd have a fantastic team. By the way, think about this for a second, Richard. So follow me on this one, guys. So the reason why the Esports World Cup, different tournament from the Nations Cup, can't take place in Riyadh is because America, a sovereign country, has attacked the country of Iran and caused a whole political tumult that's now affecting other countries. But at no point in time do I want anyone to ever think, should America be sanctioned for its behavior within the esports space? But Russia, because what it did was attack another country, it can't be involved with this esports competition run by the same people. If you're following all that and that makes sense to you, fuck you. It doesn't make any sense at all. It's absolutely ridiculous. It's an absurd double standard in it. I know, it just is, but whatever. For whatever reason, we picked Russia. They're the ones that have to have the dunce cap and sit in the corner, but no one else.
People are pushing for Israel. People are pushing for Israel.
Sure.
Clearly, by the way, also, you know, the players of Counter-Strike will be the ones punished for this crime.
Of course. Oh, yeah. Listen, we can't in any way actually stop Putin and all those people. I tell you what, though, Jonk, you're going to fucking take this lashing. It's ridiculous. I don't know. What's he done?
And by the way, it's not like, you know, for those of you arguing, well, they represent Russia. I mean, yes, in this particular case, but they don't typically do that. They play like there isn't usually a Russian national team.
It's even pretty famous, actually, by the way, that it's been extremely rare for any Counter-Strike pro who was Russian to ever make any sort of statement about the war, by the way. Like, in general, they've done a really good job of never, ever addressing that topic. Also, as Richard says, he's right, by the way. If you were to make a team tomorrow, purely national-based, Russia would probably be number one in Counter-Strike. It would have Monesi and Donk for a start. It would be unbelievable, that squad, mate.
Unbelievably good in Dota as well. I mean, like...
Sure, of course. They're all the TI winners, yes. Yeah. So,
guys. You know, it's crazy to think that that's not going to be allowed to happen at this Nations World Cup, which is, of course, distinct from the World Cup of esports or whatever. So we know that's not going to happen. But then are they going to change that? I mean, I heard another mad rumor, by the way, and again, I'll just say it. I don't give a fuck. This is podcast fodder or whatever. Yeah. It's not. This isn't official reporting. But there was some rumor going around because Saudi Arabia won't have. They'll have like an Overwatch team, and that'll be about it.
Okay.
Right? Because think about it. Name me a Saudi Arabian Counter-Strike player. Name me, right? Name me, right?
I've never even heard of one.
So, what I heard a mad rumor that the Falcons players were going to get offered passports.
The idea, like a Nico representing Saudi Arabia.
I mean, he may as well go all in at this point.
Well, true, he can't play for Bosnia, right? I know that team's not doing it, but it's still ridiculous, isn't it?
That would be hilarious if that actually happened. That's
problem is, though, you have to also realize, though, the reason that would even be a genius checkmate for the West is, if you know anything about football, we're already balls deep in that anyway. The second you get the passport, mate, you're just as French, you're everything. So we couldn't even actually make the joke we just made cynically about Nico's, because that's what already happens in football anyway. That's all we all do. Yeah.
I mean, listen, same thing in, rugby, sport a lot closer to my heart, but like, I mean, you'll just see like, oh, this player's surname is Van der Westhuizen playing for Scotland. You're like, all right, okay. I see what's going on here. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. So it's one of those. Like, I mean, and look, and also as well, I mean, I remember when they did it to the Jamaican national football team when they qualified for the World Cup. And all of a sudden, anyone that had like a Jamaican granddad or great-granddad or great-great-granddad or great-great-grandmother, all of a sudden, like the players that qualified, they weren't allowed to go and play. It was all the people on Chelsea and Wimbledon that weren't good enough to get in the England squad. They all went and represented Jamaica all of a sudden. So there's always been chicanery with this stuff. I've never seen it explicitly done in esports. That would be
shenanigans, though, if it was just the Falcons team. The actual, not zero of Saudi Arabian players. Like, oh, welcome the Falcons.
It's like I say, I mean, put it this way, as a rumor, it might have more legs than it doesn't, because think about it, if the Russians can't play anyway, why don't you represent Saudi? Yeah, just, and it's only a passport.
True. Yeah.
It's only a passport.
You're right. If you're KeSPA or honestly, why not? Yeah. At least you get to begin the tournament.
It's only a passport. It might come in handy one day. if you ever need to
Obviously,
flee your country for
I won't
whatever
extend
reason.
this too far. Look up what happened in the past to people like Iraq, etc. But I'll also just say the one upside of that, Richard, would be that might be the one time Falcons ever faced consequences for losing a final.
Yeah, actually.
Dark, but whatever.
Yeah. I mean, look.
Because there was actually a story like that, Monty, that I thought was one of the more... Listen, what's funny is, I'm going to be ridiculous, because I'm not even going to make the abuse of power the ridiculous part here, but there once was a story, I think it was Iran, that went to like it wasn't even a World Cup, so they never qualified. It'll have been the qualifier for something. They had the tournament where I think it was Iran, actually had an event where like their team failed in football, right? Because obviously they're not a fucking relevant team in football. Like, by the way, this is how you know dictators are mental. You'd have never had any chance, you're like Iran or something, for fuck's sake. But because they failed in some match, I'm going to even guess it was like, it's like Argentina or someone amazing. They all got like flogged by like the dictator or something. I remember just thinking, even though
Iraq had
the
that happen to them too.
Yeah, it might be Iraq then. Whoever it was, the point is, like, in that scenario, I was like, imagine being that player. You're already way worse than them anyway. Then you lose. It's like, right, floggings, like, so.
Yeah, you'd be like you'd be on the field, like, like, please, just like, can I at least score a goal? Can I just score a goal?
So locked in, it'd be
like,
crazy.
Look at my back, mate. I can't take any more of this. Like, please,
guys, can you just give us a draw? You don't even need to win this game.
I know,
please.
I know it's completely irrelevant. You're already through. Please.
Listen, I'll suck your dick. I'll eat your shit. Whatever. Whatever. I had to get one reference.
Don't even get me started on that. Holy fuck. Anyway, yeah. Back
check
to
out The Boys season 5.
Indeed.
End of review.
It's the way I wish you were joking when you said that, but I know
channel.
that video definitely exists on Nerd Legion or something. Does it?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, we just did it.
Of course it does.
They just did it.
Yeah, by the way, the amount of content you and Dove done is actually obscene. You've done like 8 million episodes out here.
I want to say this, like, what they do is fucking like torturous. Some of the stuff they watch is like, how are you doing this to yourself? Like,
that's why like, low-key, my favourite one is on our show. Monty's always really upbeat and get it. But then there's shows where, Dawes just made him watch like 12 hours or something that he didn't like from hour one. And he had to just get through it all. Yeah, I know. That's
today on Nerd Legion,
Red
Sonja.
I love it.
I had to watch The Acolyte.
You touched the whole of that, man alive, and I tapped out after episode 1 or something, mate.
And Starfleet Academy. I did it. I sacrificed myself.
But
so
at the same time, though, I do appreciate the way you have cleverly found a way to monetize Doa's own fucking character flaws. Or whatever. Like, right, you know what?
No,
if you're going to talk to me about this shit, let's get
either.
paid. Let's get paid to watch it.
He doesn't like it either.
Okay,
but yeah, the last season of The Boys was terrible.
I've got another hilarious story to tag on to all of this, which is, and it shows how misguided this whole thing is. So, right, that Team Liquid are really, really bad in Counter-Strike right now.
Yeah.
I'm sure. I mean,
they're like, by the way, absurdly so. This isn't just a meme of like, they're like literally so irrelevant they can barely beat anyone, literally, in Counter-Strike. It's crazy.
So I think they're down to 38th in the regional standings. Regional.
And by the way, that's almost impossible to achieve as a major org, because if you started with the invites, you have to basically almost never win games to even
my bad. It's 38th overall, which makes them like 3rd in the NA regional standings, because the NA regional standings is so bad. That's what I meant.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But they are 38th overall. And so that means that because NA is only down to 2 regional invites for the EWC, there was a report on dust2.us, and it said, guys, Liquid are on the verge of losing the Esports World Cup invite to Wildcard. There's no way that'll stick. There's no way they won't invite Liquid.
They'll find some loophole, right?
Well, it's not even that they'll find the loophole. EWC will just be like,
one more team.
Yeah, or something like that. There's no way Liquid aren't going to be at this World Cup. Does anyone think that for a second?
I mean, the problem is
the CS team isn't going to be allowed to go.
Aside from Falcons, who have their own reasons, they're the most in bed with the Saudis, right? They've been in every single thing they've done so far.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, I do think they use, even though Team Liquid's huge anyway, I do think it's an added bonus that they get to use the whole Steve Arns thing as well. Like, that's just fucking
they love that
gravy on top in it,
Yeah, love that. So there's no way. There's literally no way.
Surely they have to be invited.
Team Liquid Counter-Strike aren't going to be there. So I mean, but that's just another thing to keep an eye on, because that'll really show you what we're dealing with. Are we dealing with an honest, like, it's just a competition, guys? We dealing with one of them, or are we dealing with something else? And what we're
I
dealing
even have
with,
a
of course,
prediction
is
for you.
something else.
I actually predict in the future they will actually reverse course on what they've done. Because I'll give you an example.
Okay.
In League of Legends, what they did for the first 2 years is they just mirrored, I think, the invites for MSI or something like that. They just said basically the same teams get to come. This year, they held qualifiers in all the regions. Like the winner of each region, I think, gets a spot. But then the second and third team come from the different qualifiers. And the problem is, because they've done them as online qualifiers, and a bunch of them are even like BO3 before it gets deep in the qualifier. Well, if you know how bad it is even in Counter-Strike, it's worse in League of Legends, bro. Online play ruins League of Legends because obviously you think your reactions doing skill shots are way worse. And I can tell you, in every region, the results have been mental in all the qualifiers because it's some randy-ass online BO3s you play outside of your normal league. And so I actually predict in the future they'll just take that away, mate, and go back to invites because invites is how you get who you want there. If you stupidly hold an online tournament, then what you happen is, like actually has happened in this tournament, like the 5th best team beats the 2nd best team or something, and that's a nightmare for you because you really just wanted to guarantee certain teams get there. So I think in the future they'll take that away, mate, or they'll have like, it'll be like for one team in a whole region, there'll be an online qualifier. I think they've made a mistake trying to make it too legit in a way.
Yeah, agreed.
Also, considering that this Esports Nation Cup takes place right before the second major of the year, right?
That's crazy, isn't it? Yeah.
How many people are going to even be practicing?
That makes me think for
this?
Counter-Strike, how could you possibly play in it, mate? Like, how in good conscience could you, as a real pro player going for the major, how could you attend this tournament as well? Because remember, you're going to have to practice for your national team and leave time aside and
that's what
travel.
I'm saying.
It's going to be ridiculous.
Yeah. I mean, people keep saying to me in the world of Counter-Strike.
And there's even the thing as well, Monty, where remember this last cycle of the major, the qualification ended up lasting way longer because people were attending those small tournaments, trying to get last. What are you going to do? You're in the race still and you have to play this tournament.
I mean, people keep saying to me in the world of Counter-Strike, there's no way that the big name players are going to go. Right. And I just don't buy that for a single solitary fucking second.
I mean, another example, Richard, is as far as I know of the Counter-Strike teams, is that Vitality one of the ones they try to court really hard. How could you not have Ziwu there, mate? If you don't have Ziwu there, that's like, for now, that is like Faker in League of Legends. You don't have Ziwu there to joke tournament.
But that's what I mean. It's like there's no way they're going to turn this into a Mickey Mouse tournament in the same way that they had to find a way to break bread with KeSPA. Because if you had a League of Legends, remember, this isn't just like for Counter-Strike, it is for all these games. If you had a League of Legends World Cup where Korea didn't participate, it's completely invalid. Yeah, completely invalid.
No, I was saying this to Monty earlier. I actually think the part people have missed is it makes perfect sense to me as to why KeSPA acknowledges the Asian Games. That has a real world significance. Right now, they don't know yet if ENC is just some off-season exhibition tournament, a bit like the Overwatch World Cup, where it's like, it's cool, but it's not the be-all and end-all. Or is this going to be like an Olympics? It's really important to go there. So to me, the number one thing they had to do, which is hence the whole KeSPA thing, if we'd like you to select the players, hint, hint, maybe Faker, is really it's about getting Faker to go. Because if Faker goes, it signals to every other pro player, this is a real tournament you should attend for your country. If Faker says, I'm not going, then in that scenario, maybe the guy who plays, like this has already happened for some smaller country, that's not relevant. Maybe they go, maybe I skip it. Maybe that's just my off season. I think that's a real deal. That's a political consideration that these teams have to take into account.
Well, I mean,
look, especially because there's no space in the esports calendar. Like if you're a League of Legends team, you're already playing 11 months out of the year. If you're a Counter-Strike team, it's coming right, but it's like you say, it's going to cut into major prep. So you have to want to go to this, right?
I mean, think about this. If you play EWC itself, bro, if you play EWC itself, then as the number one Korean team, it's possible you could play a first stand, MSI, EWC, Worlds, ENC, and then your own league as well. Mate,
and Asian
there's
games.
already infinity amounts of games to play. It's ridiculous. That's impossible. Too many tournaments.
Yeah. But I've been told there will be consequences.
Yeah,
if,
Asian games
the
as well.
don't
Exactly.
Go.
Holy shit.
Really?
As in, like they expect the big name players to be there because it's a contingent requirement of the ongoing ability to draw from this stipend. That you're not you're not gonna be able to say Ziwu, right? Like no Ziwu. You're gonna have to at least give us like maybe you don't give us your entire squad, but you're gonna have to give us you know you're gonna have to give us your good players because how else can we market this?
Right.
You know. So that's another ongoing problem.
I would really wonder how the players' contracts are structured, where a team could force them to go play for a national team as opposed to their team activities.
I mean, I imagine I imagine it's just like part of your promotional duties to the organization. You know, like obviously,
I don't know that holds up in court, Betty.
I don't think any of these.
I mean, they might lie to the players and say that, but I I don't think that withstands real scrutiny because it has nothing to do with.
Let's
the
be
team.
real.
No,
No
is it your
one-
mistake imagining that a pro player read his contract or has someone reading his
That's true.
contract? There,
Well,
Monty,
it's not even that. It's that these players are so unbelievably fucking coddled right now, and like
Right.
have it so good. Let's be clear. These are the same players that just let 50% of their prize money go over to the Orgs, because like they got robbed. All of the Orgs
Yep.
in CS took 50%
Put it
of
this
the
way,
prize pool
Monty,
and put it in their pocket.
it'll make you upset
Not
if
a
you ever
single
look into it.
yeah.
But if you ever do look into how like the club share thing works now, the entire thing that they fought us over Flashpoint and the Liverpool is a joke, mate. That was for pennies. This is the same dickhead players who essentially, let's say I'll make a harsh number. Let's say they got $1,000 more for playing Pro League instead of Flashpoint. They've now given away crazy millions of dollars of equity to fucking their teams just for the same exact. These people are idiots, bro. They don't know nothing about how it works. The problem is you have to have a ringleader that tells them what to think, and they didn't have anyone to help on that one. Because spoiler, there also is no CSPPA anymore, is there? That's great. That doesn't exist. Brilliant. Good one, guys.
Yeah.
Let's let the Orgs just have all the money.
I've never seen players just take having money lifted out of their pockets like that without anyone saying anything.
No, it's nuts, isn't it?
It really shows you how the table is tilted now.
Absolutely. But it just implies to me, Richard, it's cause they now make enough in salary that like they've hit the point where they're sated. They just don't care anymore.
Basically, instead of salary negotiations, they gave up 50% of their prize money to the Orgs, so they can keep the 50 grand, a month at the highest echelons. Going right the way down to 5K is probably a low salary these days.
Because to this day, I can tell you right now, we just did this. We just had IM Atlanta and PGL Astana. If you ever go and look, if you were a player, it makes zero sense why PGL's the one you skip. That has all the prize money. In fact, even sometimes as a weaker field, the more prize money. Like, again, we've all fallen couch like a million years, mate. You go, if you're not the number one team, you definitely go to the tournament that doesn't have the number one team and all the fucking prize money. That's where you win the prize money. But instead, magically, they all just keep attending ESL events as if it was business as usual. Yeah, it's weird out. ESL bit have got to be the greatest of all time at squeezing loopholes and get people in and not officially telling you can't attend other events, but find a way you can. By the way, my favourite one, and they really do this as well, Monty, is ESL are such cocksuckers that because they can no longer just overtly tell you you can't attend this event and be in our tournament, what they do instead is this. They literally plan it. Go look at the calendar. They make it so that when the PGL event ends, by the way, PGL now sometimes has some of its finals on a Saturday to try and accommodate this and allow you to attend the ESL event. Because what ESL will do is they'll just have their event start the day after your final, if you make the final, in a different continent. And then they'll be like, you can play both tournaments, but if you're not here at the start time, then it's a problem and you get fined. So it's like essentially they created a logistical way to just make the circuit how they want it to be. And like I say, it's so cynical because if this wasn't, they've done it once. I believe every single year, at least once, they've done what I just said, purposely planned the location almost to be as far as you could ever. So it basically takes over a day to travel. Like they just cynically done it, bro. So it's like, hey, I'm not stopping you going to the event. I'm just saying if you make the final, you can't possibly get to my event on time. That's your choice. You are all free to do as you wish. Like that's so.
It's
I love
so
how
crazy
ridiculous they are.
that IEM Melbourne, which takes 25 hours to fly to from Europe, takes place 12 hours after a final of a different
event. What can we do? But again, feel free to attend any event you like. And also, I've already agreed with the team that you should attend our event anyway. Don't worry about it.
Yeah,
that is real.
So I mean, I can certainly see some delicious bonuses being sprinkled out for the players that go.
Yeah.
Plus, with the pressure from the Orgs to attend, and the pressure coming to them from Saudi saying this has to be a marketable event. So, I mean, like this whole thing's a fucking farce. I genuinely think we are closer to the end than we are the beginning of the Saudi Arabian involvement in all of this. Because
by the way, here's a question I had for you, actually, Richard. Could this year, the fact that it can't be in Riyadh, and at the moment no one knows when that situation will be resolved, could that itself, I'll actually use their own terminology against them, could that accelerate their schedule of having to sell?
I mean, it's definitely possible because ultimately, there's no way unless people deliberately fuck up this event. There is no way an event in Paris cannot underline the shortcomings of an event in Riyadh.
Absolutely.
There's like no way. I've been going to events in Paris for a long time.
No, it's a banging place, yeah.
I mean, well, it used to be. Say
Well,
what
I mean, for events, like anywhere in Central Europe's going to have all the fans
infrastructure's good, accessible for fans. It's got one of the biggest airports in the world, also the worst airport in the world.
Sure.
You know, but I mean, it's all theoretically there, and obviously, right now, it doesn't have any of the logistical or political problems that an event in Riyadh has. Now, look, I won't get into the granularity of it's a major European city. There's always a chance of something, bad happening. But I'll say, like France as a destination, there's a lot to like about it, especially if you would contrast it to a big Middle Eastern city. And so ultimately, what's going to happen is you're going to have bigger crowds. You probably have better talent. There might even be some talent that weren't going to go to Riyadh that decide to go now.
I even suspect that's where some people will get their feet wet, as it were, Richard.
Yes.
Because notice that is, if people don't know, a lot of people, this is where you know that the first year the EWC was the one where actually people could go, I'll never attend. Everyone's now changed their position, I've noticed too. I might work with them, but I won't go to Saudi Arabia.
I wouldn't go to Riyadh.
That became the last step, didn't it? And a lot of people are waiting for that last step, I noticed.
Yeah. So probably some talent that wasn't necessarily scheduled going to be announced now. Not only that, Vitality and Carmine Corps, they're not going to waste an opportunity to have some fucking straight fire activations like going on. And as I said, MBS will still have the red carpet rolled out for him. I guarantee Macron is not going to waste an opportunity for the photo op with MBS and Paris, and there'll be like some little technological symbol in the background, show how advanced we all are, and you know how the game's played. So ultimately, this is for me going to hold up a mirror to what an event in Riyadh is like, with 400 paid fans in the stands and people having to hand out free jerseys, and organically teams are being told you can't chant this, and I mean, let's not forget, right, at the Saudi Arabian event, somebody held up a sign that said Mzinho is king in support of the Mongol CS team. And that was confiscated because there can only be one king in Saudi Arabia.
It's amazing, isn't it? And what I love about that is you might go, but they just mean king metaphorically. You don't understand totalitarian regimes, you idiot. That is a thought. The point is, if you have the thought, that could lead to actually doing the thing in real life. If you ever were to think to yourself, there could be another king. That is exactly what is banned. That is the thought that is banned.
Yes, what is the point of putting on the bread and circuses if you're still going to think about, the puppet strings? So ultimately, I think it's going to look very bad. And I think Riyadh are going to want to bounce back immediately from this upset, which puts more pressure on the Nations Cup.
Oh, for sure.
But they're going to want to bounce back with a big event of their own. Show like, look, we can do it like the French do it. We had to go to Paris, but it's us that made that event fire, right? So they're going to want to push back and do something big. And if they're not able to do it because of this global situation or whatever the fuck they're calling it, then I think they're going to start asking some serious questions about the future of this endeavor. Not to mention, I mean, look, surely it's only a matter of time before some media outlet starts turning over their stones. Please.
All right.
Obviously, I know they bought Rolling Stone. I know they bought a bunch.
But it's sort of, Richard, it does make, in same ways we talked about on that episode of All the President's Men, it does make you wonder about the reality of people winning things like Pulitzers. Because, mate, nobody wants a Pulitzer on this topic. Have you noticed that? This would be a massive story to break wide up. No one wants to touch it. By the way, esports itself could be presented as a massive rug pull. No one wants to write that story, mate. There's no money in writing that story. There's no award in writing that story. You probably end up, put it this way, if you write that story, you wouldn't be a hack, but you might end up getting hacked up. That's how that might end up.
I mean, let's be clear as well. Like the current one of the current recipients of the Pulitzer Prize won it for a total forgery of a story. Something that's been resoundingly debunked. So I mean, look, the Pulitzer definitely isn't what it used to be. It's just another backslapping, self-flating American media award. But the reality is, I think, if you start turning over the stones of what's going on business-wise on this side of the aisle and some of the problems with it, the fact that last year there was nearly a walkout with the boots on the ground staff because their project managers didn't understand concepts like working hours. right? Like
when
you consider that I have talked to, how do I phrase this delicately? I have talked to people who have witnessed firsthand, the acts of misogyny, etc., that you might joke about when you think about an event.
Well, I
in
mean, put it
Saudi
this way,
Arabia.
there was even that story not that long ago, Richard, that one of the problems with wasn't it with like Saudis in esports is that they wouldn't allow women to be involved with what was it?
It was the Olympic Committee. Was that
There you
the
go.
Olympics pulled out because allegedly reported by the esports advocate was because there was a change in leadership at the Olympics, and the new leadership found out that the Saudis would not put women in positions of authority within the esports Olympics event in Riyadh on their principles.
So basically,
so
guys, driving, they've hit that threshold. Driving, being allowed to be part of the committee. No, I haven't made it to that level yet. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean,
driving only.
Also, as well, though, the little things like when people were meeting the royals, women being ushered out of the room, like stuff like this.
Classic shit. Yeah.
And it's like if a journalist from a credible outlet was to just look at this stuff for 5 minutes, look at reporting I've
done, a massive story there,
go out and interview people, then the sports washing aspect of this would unravel.
Yes.
It would completely unravel. And unfortunately, no one seems willing to do that because Saudi Arabia is ubiquitous across media publications right now, in addition to everything else. The PIF are putting money into all of this promotion. It still blows my mind that, like, I'm reading quotes from Ralph fucking Reichart in Time magazine that are just, but there's just no pushback.
No.
So
that's because they hire high-powered PR firms to contact Time magazine and tell them, hey, this huge esports event is happening. And then that's how it gets in the magazine, right?
Yeah, and also, exactly the same. The beauty of people wanting to court the esports audience is all media products are failing right now. Maybe if you're an esports fan, you click on this article and we can keep this whole fucking jury rig of bullshit funding.
But it's though, Rich, I know what you mean. Like, think about this. So it's a concern that if the BBC, and they literally did this, we all know, was to interview like Jordan Peterson, they'd be like, no, Jordan, I'm going to have to push back on that. We're going to have to be a bit. But then if they interview Saudi Arabia about their involvement in sports washing, it's like, no further questions. You're all right. Like, what the fuck? You haven't got anything for this guy. Okay. Because by the way, I got to say, that BBC article itself, you're right, Richard. The reason this event will actually show up how fake and plastic and astroturf the Riyadh event is, even within the like bullshit they use to sell the Paris event as being better, it gives away what shit about Riyadh. It says there's two angles. On the one hand, this like British guy, I think he is, like Thomas, whatever, he says like essentially it'll be like a better crowd. Like that already gives away that the crowd's shit in Riyadh. And then the LGBTQ person says it'll be safer for people like that. And you can actually attend the event. What's funny is that's good in the short term to sell why this event is better. But what does it imply about the original event? Like it basically gives away all the shortcomings of the original event, which haven't gone away. And I agree, it'll only look worse when you have some massive event in Paris that has all the things you wish you had in Riyadh, but you don't. And then presumably next year you go back to Riyadh and it's back to this shitty little fake ass event where it's all fake.
Yeah, I mean, and look, maybe it will do that, maybe it won't do that, but I think these are the first real bumps in the road, right? Because we've seen what can happen from having an event in what is, for good or ill, an unstable geopolitical reason. We've seen that the morality test no one gives a fuck about, right? Fair enough. The money's too good. But ultimately as well, I don't know if people are noticing this, the money's been scaling down.
Yep.
People's rates, they've come back down to earth. Prize pools, back down to earth. They're advertising $75 million. That's being placed in a lot of particularly large baskets and not a lot elsewhere. And, people did used to get the bag for going out and working at this thing. They don't anymore. That's not how it works. So, like I say, I think combined with the Paris event and all the other problems, it could be the beginning of the end. I'm not saying it will be. I wouldn't if I wanted to place a bet on it, it would be like a 50-50. but it's definitely got the potential because I'm looking at how quickly things like golf have imploded. And as I said, golf is for me a bigger draw than esports, no matter what people say about esports.
Sure, of course.
Well, I do want to wrap this up with another because I do enjoy when the Saudis just take L's. And obviously the golf one is a huge L that they had to eat. But people probably don't even know this, but the Saudi Arabian government just released a very expensive movie. And this movie, this is very funny.
Reference to something, yeah.
Yeah, it's called Desert Warrior, and it stars Anthony Mackie, who is the current Captain America, who will be in the Avengers movie later this year, and also co-stars in a supporting role Ben Kingsley, so a very famous Oscar-winning actor. And you might be wondering, why did I never hear of this film? Well,
did I like for
you haven't heard of this film because it has made almost no money, and it is about a battle in the ancient world that I was not familiar with. And hilariously, in light of this conversation, it was a 7th century battle between the Persian Empire and the Arabian tribes. Might remind you somewhat of present conflicts. And, you know, so they released this movie. The movie cost $150 million to make with some very big names. So what do you get?
On IMDb, it only has 9K reviews, and even then it has a 3.9 rating. Holy fuck, you can't even ask
how much money. How much money do you think this movie makes? Any guesses, gentlemen?
It's going to be really, really low.
It's going to be like $20,000 or something. It's
Come on,
be
what is it?
It's not that bad.
$1 million?
No, not even.
Not even $1 million. Fucking hell, man.
It is on track to be one of the biggest box office flops in history. It had a $400,000 global release. It opened on over 1,000 theaters in America and made $400 on average per theater. And it is currently, the total worldwide box office is $733,000. Even the people of Saudi Arabia, it apparently was the 8th movie in the theaters in Saudi Arabia the weekend of its launch. So literally nobody watched this movie. They spent $150 million on, again, this is to make their country look good. They want people to be aware of the history of Saudi Arabia. They want people to see them winning a battle against
By the way,
Iran.
no offense, Saudi Arabia, but like I'm going to make the same joke. I tell you what, I'll be magnanimous. I'll make the same. I've already made this enemy anyway. I'll make the same joke I always make with the Poles, which is Poland. There's a reason why you're incredibly proud of the winged hussars of like the medieval period, because nothing happened after that. It's been hundreds of years with no W's. Same thing, Saudi Arabia. This is actually an anti-advertisement for your country. You had to go back to like the 7th century or something, bro. Like nothing recent, nothing happening recently. Fucking hell. 7th century, Nate. Are you having a laugh?
You know, it's obviously painfully obvious that the dominant power for like thousands of years was the Persian Empire in that part of the world.
If anything, here's what would have been gangster. They wouldn't have the balls to do this. They should have done their own version, like 300, but from the other perspective. Whatever, that'll be fire. Exactly.
So anyway,
we're the rascals. You're the ones beating us. Do that.
I only heard of this movie because of how badly it was doing.
Yeah,
I
saw
no
this
idea
as well on
out.
social media. It's like, also as well, have you actually seen any of the scenes from the movie?
Yeah,
does it look good? Does it actually look good? Oh, it's actually
beyond cringe. Yeah.
But apparently, like, you know, this was another one of MBS's pet projects where he really wants to have he's like a film fan, and he really wants to have this film industry in Riyadh where you can't film outside.
What I love is
it's
the way this plays into all the stereotypes of what rich people are like. Bring me the Captain America. Bring Captain America here. Bring him. You make a movie. Like, what are you talking about, you lunatic? Like, have you ever made a movie? No, I have money. Give him $50 million. Like, it's outrageous and it's so nuts. It's so ridiculous. Bring me golf. I want golf now. I want golf. No, I no longer want golf. Send golf away. I love it. It's fucking ridiculous. Isn't it? Must be great having that much money.
Cast Ben Kingsley. He was Gandhi. People love
exactly.
Gandhi.
Exactly. Yeah. I am big fan of what you call Sexy Beast. Bring Ben. Ben, come to the movie. Straight fire movie. We should definitely watch that for.
Yeah, get that on foreplay for real. So yeah, unfortunately, I just think like there's there's a real test coming now. Can esports survive the withdrawal of Saudi money? I don't know, but
I mean, yes,
whatever
is the answer.
I mean, yeah, it just won't be what we're.
No, put it this way. The good news is this, guys. Esports will always survive. The real question, as we all know, though, is if you shrink the industry to half or a quarter of what it was before, a lot of the people who only came in when it doubled and quadrupled will just leave immediately. They'll be gone tomorrow.
What a shame.
Right? True.
Yeah, well,
true.
That would.
What a
True.
shame.
That would truly be a rough one.
Because, by the way, I'll give you a scaled down example of exactly this topic. I saw a thing the other day, Monty, where someone who was, because the LCS now also is doing like shoulder content, they hired someone who did an interview with like an NACL player in League of Legends, and he was complaining that some people only make like $2,000 a month salary. And I wanted to stop, pause him and go, you do realize even that should be treated with incredible gratitude by you, the player. Why would you, an NA player who isn't even good enough for the LCS, so in other words, by the way, like the 11,000th best League of Legends player in the world, why would you get to have a giant salary in a game that doesn't make money? Like, again, mate, I'd actually just be grateful that's even an opportunity available, mate. Like, that's how out of touch esports is. Like, we all just think the bubble's reality. We don't realize it's a bubble that can pop at any moment.
Obviously, I would like people to get paid, but the reality of esports is it's always survived based on people and also other sports. Like, okay, let's take a professional sport. Let's say baseball. I don't think people understand how little AAA baseball players get paid. Like,
oh, sure.
They get paid shit, man.
Yeah.
And they're just a step below professional baseball, which is much, much bigger, right? So the point is, though, is that people who do these things are not doing it for money or for rational reasons. They do it because they are obsessed with it. And like, the money will never stop the greatest players from being the greatest. Like, that's just not a thing that's going to happen. That's literally never been true of the following fields. Entertainment, by the way. What do you think actors get paid? Are you fucking kidding me? Like, they do it because they love it and they can't conceptualize of doing anything else. And a few of them make a lot of money. Entertainment and sports are extremely top heavy in terms of money.
Notice how in music, bro, we all know they lost the hundreds of millions of dollars the artists used to get. They're not even fuck off though, mate. They all still do the concerts. They all still work. Like, because the point is, at the end of the day, are you going to either A, do nothing or get a real job? You're not, are you? You're just going to keep doing your passion and try and monetize it wherever way you can. What you have to do is, instead of making 100 million, you make 10 million. Okay, you have to just swallow that and get on with your life, don't you?
Yep.
That's reality. So I agree with the same. The good news is all the great players, you're right, Monty, all the great players would still play. What happens is the guy who's marginal, who could be like the 149th best pro in CS, maybe he quits. But at the end of the day, is that such a great loss if it means evil people in the industry? Maybe not, right?
Yeah. I don't think there's like a single of the all-time great esports pros that would not. I mean, here's an example for you. Look at games that have lost a lot of money. Like, Brood War is nowhere big as Brood War used to be. Where's Flash? Oh, right, he's still playing. You know what I mean? They play for love of the game at this point. A lot of these players, they don't need money.
No.
I'm pretty sure Flash doesn't have as much money as Faker. Obviously, times were different, but I'm pretty sure Flash could probably get by. You know, he was paid a lot for a player back in the day. And he could get by just on streaming, frankly. Like, I don't even think he has to compete. So, you know, it is just one of those things where the best players just have, what makes them the best is the uncontrollable drive to continue to do it, and that's going to be
also, we referenced this earlier in the episode, but we can be more explicit about it here. The other thing as well that I think happened with the Saudis is once they actually took over ESL, I think they themselves, because remember, before the Saudis took over, ESL was already in financial troubles. That MTG company been trying to sell them for years and years. Everyone knew the margins were too high. So I already think what the Saudis quickly realized, quite cynically, because the biggest myth about the Saudis is they have unlimited money, they don't care about spending it. Lol, will do whatever. No. It's always for a reason. Like, the reason you spend the bag is to get Cadrel, specifically Cadrel there. You do it specifically to get Faker to be at the event. Like, that's where you're not wasting that money. That money has a value to you that is worth spending. The point is, though, you won't spend that for nothing, though. Like, if it wasn't fake or it wasn't cathedral, they weren't offering like Yamato getting the fucking 100K a day to do the coach being made. Like, that wouldn't even be on the table. So again, one thing people always get wrong in esports is people who have billions of dollars don't get billions of dollars if they're wasteful. They're using that money tactically. So actually, if anything, that's why I say, will it accelerate it? It was already implied, we've discussed it on this show before, that maybe what they're going to realize anyway is maybe we just take the skeleton elements of ESL and run EWC with it, but then sell ESL. Like, so let someone else run a Counter-Strike circuit bit. Maybe we just want the EWC, which is the biggest min-max for us, isn't it? So why would we spend a whole circuit doing events in countries that we don't give a fuck about? Like, it's implied to me, actually, like you say, a mixture of maybe esports isn't as profitable a la Live Golf, but then also, why waste money? Why not just get the effective part of the sports washing and then just sell off the other parts that we don't want to do?
Yeah. I mean, and like I said, that's why I think we are looking at this. This is like a real test. There's definitely, you know, to bring it full circle, you know, there's a reason why people were still fighting for it to be in Riyadh, no matter how unsafe or impractical it might have been in the current situation that they've got. And I don't think going to Paris for like 1 year and then having a sick baller event in Paris that's cobbled together at the last minute, I don't think that helps anybody in terms of like perceptions about the Esports World Cup. If anything, it might make people go, hey, look, if we're already on the roads, why don't we just keep it on the road? We never really liked going to Riyadh.
You know, the fans are going to look at it and be like, it was so cool in Paris with those big crowds. Why is it in Riyadh again? And then they're going to come to the realization, maybe there's another reason it's in Riyadh that has nothing to do with the quality of the event.
Yep.
All right. Well, you know, I guess it doesn't get more esports Delenda-esque than Ralph Reichart saying that ticket sales have increased after the Iranian war ceasefire, which definitely tells us why this industry should be destroyed. We'll see you next time.